All right, welcome to the Krueg Show, everybody. The basketball game's done. Miami beats Boston 118-107. The Warriors go tomorrow night in the Western Conference Finals, game number 1, and the Giants winners tonight in Denver as we get it rolling on the Krueg Show. The great Marty Lurie with us for at least a few minutes here before we bid him farewell. Marty, Giants got a nice win. It started off beautiful. Tommy LaStella hit one into the upper tank at Coors Field, and the Giants were off and running. Made it 1-0, and they go on for a 10-7 victory. Colorado made it close late, but Austin Slater with a diving catch in center field, backing up Camilo Doval. And the Giants just continue to win 12 in a row now over Colorado. What'd you think, Marty?
Well, thank goodness for Colorado. This is a team, they've had their number now for, a year and a half. And I've said it before jokingly with you. I said, if you don't feel good, you go to the doctor, they give you a prescription. When the Giants don't feel good, they get a prescription that says Colorado Rockies. And they just have a better team than the Rockies, and they showed it tonight. They eat up pitchers who are having trouble, Larry. We've talked about this. You got to be on your A game to beat the Giants up and down that lineup. And I thought, let's get your thought on LaStella. I mean, he's, first pitch, second pitch of the game, he hits it like 465 feet. I mean, this made Nate Schierholtz's ball must have gone 600 when he hit it in Colorado. So it got things rolling, and they really never stopped. But something, I'll give you one example. Growing up in Miami Beach, we used to have a place on Collins Avenue right near the water that had pinball machines. And the pinball machines had baseball games. And there was a little ball that would come out, and you would have a thing on your finger that you could press, and that would be the bat. And you'd hit it, and the runners would keep running around the bases. They'd have figures running around. That's what this place looks like. It looks like a pinball machine, the way people are running around. And the Giants took advantage of it tonight. So thank God for the Rockies. The Dodgers are probably going to win 2 today. And the Giants have to win games like this.
Well, it stood out to me. First of all, that ball that LaStella hit, 464 feet was the estimate. It's the 8th longest home run in all of baseball this year. If I say big-time power hitters, guys who can really hit the long ball, man, you're going to name 150 guys before you get to Tommy LaStella. But what I loved in this game, Marty, was that LaStella showed that he could move a little bit. I mean, the Achilles, he had a nice play where he ran into second. He had 3 hits on the night. It looks like whatever they did to quiet down the Achilles worked. We're going to find out over the next 3-4 weeks, I would imagine. But big night for LaStella, big night for Yaz, big night for Ruff, big night for Crawford, couple RBIs and a couple more hits for Estrada. And, I've said it before to you, and I really believe this. The Giants this year are going to be very predictable. They're going to beat all the teams they should beat, and they're going to struggle against the best teams in the National League. There just aren't a lot of them, right? So they're going to struggle against the Mets. They're going to struggle against the Dodgers. They're going to struggle on the road against the Cardinals. They're going to struggle maybe on the road against the Brewers. There's going to be some struggles. But guess what? Every other team that I didn't name, they're going to beat them like a drum. And I really believe that. And that's what we saw again tonight. Colorado is not on that premier list. They're a step below, and the Giants are going to beat those teams. I bet you they wind up beating those teams like at a 700 clip all year. I bet you they just crush the bad teams this year.
Well, they beat Arizona 17 times last year, and they beat Colorado 15 times. So that's 32 of your 76 games in the West that you won against these two teams, and you beat San Diego 11 times and the Dodgers 10. So that was a big part of what the Giants did last year. But, Larry, the Giants had 15 at-bats with runners in scoring position, and they got 5 hits tonight. They were big hits. I thought that Yastrzemski is just locked in.
Yeah, he looks great.
When Wade and Yastrzemski are locked in, now there's no Wade tonight because he had the knee, was a little sore. But, boy, Yastrzemski is locked in. Ruff, and I said this when the season started, he will lead this team in walks. There's no question. He's got a great eye. got a couple of big walks today. And then the bullpen. I realized that they left Cobb in. I couldn't believe he left Cobb in that inning when he was getting whacked around. I said, all right, that's enough. Get him out. The only thing you don't want is a 3-run homer. Next pitch, a 3-run homer.
Exactly.
But then the bullpen came in. Brebbia did his job. Rogers did his job. Leone did his job. And Duvall is, boy, what a weapon this guy has become. I think on the show they said tonight, 2 hits. Is that it? That's all he's given up the whole year. So when they get the lead in the 6th inning, they know how to bring it home, regardless of this crazy ball that's played on the moon in Colorado. It was a good win for them.
It was. They left Giants have 12 on base. So, I mean, the one thing I really like about the Giants is that when they go to Colorado, they maintain this very professional approach where you wouldn't know if they'd scored 1 run or 10 runs. They just keep grinding the entire game. 12 left on base. They really worked. I mean, how many the Colorado pitchers totaled 200 pitches. That you don't see that every day. 200 pitches, Marty.
No, look, I feel for Buddy Black. I really do. I mean, everyone they bring in, Stevenson threw the ball hard, but it looked like the pitchers were almost mailing it in early. But look, he can't take Chad Kuhl out in the 2nd inning. You can't do that in Colorado. You got to let a guy, eat the innings. Now, tomorrow's another story. Freeland and Webb. I think we'll see another big scoring game tomorrow for these two teams. Webb has given up a lot of hits recently, and Freeland, they can handle him easily. So it's Colorado baseball, and you want to win these games. You're right. These are games they should win, and they got it done tonight. What did you think of Alex Cobb tonight?
Well, I really like Alex Cobb. I mean, he seems like he's a true pitcher. He's a veteran pitcher. He's got above average stuff. I thought of him as kind of an average stuff guy, but now that I've seen him in a Giant uniform, his stuff ramps up. It's well above average. Yeah. So I like what I see out of Cobb. Forget the stats. In this ballpark, it's not about the stats. But he threw a lot of strikes. 64 out of 92 pitches were strikes. Very impressed with Brebbia as well. I think Brebbia, Marty, the Brebbia that we saw in 2021 doesn't look like the same Brebbia this year. He's got more life on his pitches. He's got better command.
Well, he's more advanced now because of the Tommy John. Last year he was coming back from Tommy John. He's become Littell.
Yeah, he's been very solid.
Littell was in this spot in the 7th inning, and he was lights out. Well, Littell, they can't go near him right now because he's given up a lot of hits, home runs, and everything else. So Brebbia has taken that spot, and he's done really well. Cobb, for me, I thought he left him in too long. I mean, the balls were hit very hard before the home run. They really were. But 95, 96, very impressive. I agree with you. I never saw an arm like this from Cobb before. So that to me was pretty good.
I mean, the thing that's frustrating, I guess, is Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's 0 for 5. He's down to 222. He's struggling. He's struggling. Yeah. It was interesting because Belt went 0 for 5. Peterson went 0 for 5. Those two guys single-handedly kept this team afloat offensively in the first couple of weeks of the year. Now they're both cold. So, it's a cyclical thing, but I'll say this. I like the fact that some of the colder hitters in April are starting to heat it up. I think Belt and Peterson will get warm again. And the Giants, they have once again, they have too much for all non-contenders in the National League. And I really think they're going to play like 700 ball against everybody that's not the Dodgers, the Mets, like the Cardinals in St. Louis, the Brewers in Milwaukee, maybe San Diego in San Diego. You got 5 legitimate teams. And I think Dodgers and Mets are going to be rough home or road. Those other teams are going to be more rough just in their place. But everybody else in the National League is going to be fodder for the Giants this year. I can just feel it. They're going to grind all these bad teams down and just beat them like a drum.
Well, I will tell you this, and don't underestimate the East here, because Atlanta's got some arms, and
Yeah,
they've
they do.
bullpen has not been great. That bullpen that won a World Series last year has not been the same this year. But Atlanta can deal with the Giants, and don't forget they got to go to Miami, and you run into Alcantara, you run into Lopez. Rogers is pitching better now. They've got a bullpen. They're starting to hit a little bit. The East on the road, the East worries me a little bit. Now Philly somehow figures out a way to lose. Whether it's Eflin pitching and losing 3-0 to San Diego. How do you like Clevenger tonight for San Diego? What about
I
that?
saw that.
Come on, 5 innings, a one-hit ball for him. So I wouldn't underestimate the East. I really wouldn't, because I think that's going to be a test for the Giants on the road. But I will say this again: they don't go 1-2-3, and if they go 1-2-3, there's 20 pitches involved. They get so many 2-out hits, so many times they get on base with 2 outs. They just wear you down, and it's really just amazing to see it. This is going to be a heck of a series this weekend, isn't it, with San Diego? Then
No doubt. No doubt. Friday night. It begins Friday night, and it's going to be good. I think the Padres, Padres added Robinson Cano. They had a little brief health scare with Bob Melvin this week, but thankfully Bo Mel's okay. I think Giants Padres is going to be worth the price of admission in San Diego and San Francisco all summer long. I mean, I think those are going to be knockdown, drag out battles. I really believe that. I don't know if you saw this today, Marty, but opening day, the Giants were minus 135 to make the playoffs. They were plus 105 to fall short. So those odds implied a 57.4% chance of the Giants making the playoffs. Well, the new odds are out today. The Giants making the playoffs is minus 260. The Giants missing the playoffs is plus 200. The odds imply that there's a 72.2% chance that the Giants will make the playoffs. So they went from 57.4% chance on opening day to now over a 72% chance. And here we are in mid-May. So, I mean, if nothing else, it's given the people who put their money where their mouth is. There was a lot of like, what are they? Are they this 107 team? Are they no buster? Are they going to fall off the table? Are they going to? And I think there were a lot of people that really had no idea on opening day. That's why it was closer to 50-50. I think now we've seen this team play for a month and a half, 6 solid weeks of baseball. And I think, are they a world beater? No. But in this expanded playoff era, they're a playoff team in the National League.
Well, keep in mind, it's only May.
Sure.
This is May 17th. Let's see where they are in August. Let's see where Carlos Rodon's shoulder is in August. Let's see where Cobb is in August. Let's see where Crawford and Belt are in August, and Peterson. This team has some age on it. Longoria is another one. Ruff is another one. So I love the start. It looks like 2021 all over again, but this is a long season. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because, we have to see how they're going to pitch the rest of the way. So there's a lot ahead of him. But Ned was great last night.
Wasn't he? He was so solid.
Something about Colorado that I, agree with, and I heard years ago from Mark Wohlers. It's not this series that takes something out of the pitching. It's the next series. Now they get San Diego coming in, and now this whole bullpen, they're getting a lot of work here in the altitude, and they're going to need them this weekend because you got Junis going this weekend. You eventually get Rodon back on the mound. So the Mets now come into Colorado for this weekend. Then the Mets come to San Francisco next week. So maybe the Mets will be the trap.
Oh, that's a great point.
Sharp. That's sharp.
Yeah.
Marty J, our buddy Jay Hutch, who watches us in Murfreesboro, has an interesting stat that I want your reaction to. He says, since Farhan took over in 2019, the Giants' record against Colorado, 36-17.
Yeah. Is that all? I thought it'd be, 46-7.
Yeah.
How about poor Chad Kuhl? He's 3-0 with in 29 innings pitched, 6 earned runs on the year outside of playing the Giants. Then versus the Giants, 7 innings pitched, 10 earned runs, 0-2.
He's got pretty good stuff. That but everybody else he's a mystery to everybody else. Giants have some ownage on him, as Krueg would say.
Got to him, in San Francisco, they got to him in about the 5th inning. So he gave him a few good innings there, but they see him. And, it's tough to pitch against a team on Tuesday and come back the next Tuesday and pitch again when you don't have lights out stuff. They've seen it. And for Chad Kuhl, he walked into a hornet's nest today. And LaStella really got it going. How about LaStella, guys? How about LaStella?
Absolutely.
I mean, this is a major addition to this lineup. He can take a walk. He's got power.
He can lead off. He takes pitches. Yeah.
I will say this, and we touched on it briefly before we talk more to Dan here. Yastrzemski is hot. Belt is not. And there's something about Belt not being hot. That bat is slow. For someone that, they're throwing the ball past him. He's reaching for pitches. And Peterson really is struggling right now. So those two guys, you got to pick it up with those two. Those two are very important players.
Let's welcome in the great Dan Coach Emilio. Marty's only got a few minutes tonight before he's going to say goodnight. So, Danny, if you have any questions that you want to throw towards Martin Lurie LLC, he's right here.
Yeah, I kind of think when I've been watching Belt, and I think he looks a little bit slow after COVID. He might be taking a little while to recover. Sometimes, I had that COVID in February, and it took me a couple months just because I was winded and I got pneumonia with it and everything. But a lot of times guys, they're test negative and everything, but their strength might be a little down. And I expect to see him on the bench tomorrow after with a lefty going. Probably Ruff or Wilmer will play first. I think you'll probably see Wilmer at first, Longoria at third, and Ruff in left, Slater in center, Yaz in right.
Yeah.
And then you'll have Strada at second. So the only, the guy that is going to need some rest at times, but he hit great tonight was Crawford. He's breaking out of it. Looks like maybe, but with this club, it's so deep now that they're fully back that it allows guys, the veterans, Longoria, Flores, Ruff, Crawford, even Peterson and all these guys to get a day off, once or twice a week. Maybe not Craw, but I'd love to see Craw get at least a day off a week this year.
Craw's got to play every day on this team because they really don't feel like they have they are a noticeably worse defensive team anytime he sits, even for an inning. So I understand the value, but I think his bat looks a little slow. He had 3 hits tonight, but he's hitting 220 with a 309 on base. Marty, one thing that we discussed yesterday with Ned that I do want your thoughts on before you leave is the Giants behind the plate. They traded Dubon for Papierski, a minor league catcher who's a switch hitter who has a high on base percentage in Houston's organization. He's now at AAA, Papierski. What is your read on how they're going to go about things with Joey Bart? And was that deal made more for to give them an option so that if Bart continues Bart's on the bingo card right now. He's like 065 or something for the month. At least he was a couple days ago. What's your read on that move? What's your read on where Bart is? He was 214 in April, Marty. It's like 050 or 060 something in May.
Yeah, as Ned said, as long as he's catching well, that's okay. And I think it's day by day. The Casale hits a couple of home runs. He's in there today, and then he goes 0 for 5 today. So Bart's coming back tomorrow because day game after a night game. I think you just go day by day with it and see how it feels. But as Ned said, as long as Bart is catching well, that's the key to keeping him on this team. Now, if he ends up hitting 060, you don't want that to happen. You don't want to shatter the kid. And you brought it up last night. Matt Williams, Mike Schmidt, Davey Concepcion. There's so many who started off, careers where they couldn't hit at all, and then they put it together. So for me, it's a day-by-day thing for him. Now, as far as that trade was concerned.
Yeah, what did you think of the deal?
Well, they gave Dubon away. That's in my opinion. They gave him away. But they did get a left-handed hitting catcher because this guy can hit left-handed. They don't have a left-handed hitting catcher in the upper part of their farm system. Bailey is the only one, and he's buried down there. Where is he? Eugene? Something like that.
Yeah, he's in Eugene, yeah.
So if something happened on the major league level where they needed a left-handed hitting catcher, or if something happened to one of these two guys, they may bring this kid up if he can, show, even with a weak bat, they may bring him up ahead of Genovese because he can hit left-handed. So I think that's one of the main reasons they got him, to give them a left-handed option at the high level of AAA.
You mentioned Dubon and Farhan. You just said it, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think you pegged that perfectly. They gave Dubon away. Why do you think they gave Dubon away?
Well, they needed the roster spot, number one. And Ned was great last night, and he said exactly what happens in baseball. When the other team knows you got to make a move, well, they're not going to be so easy to deal with.
Sure.
And everybody knew Dubon was going. And they got to Houston, talked it over, and all they could get for him was this. He had to go. And at least this way, they got a player that maybe can help them in a position where they didn't have strength, and that is at left-handed catching. So it's unfortunate, but Houston knew what they could do, and they got Dubon for, I think, relatively nothing.
Only a minute or two before we let you go here, but Villar, the Giants have a guy in the minor leagues. Dan, what's his first name?
David
Villar. David.
Third
Oh,
base.
thanks, right. David Villar. And he had 12 home runs so far, Marty, and you probably saw him a little bit in the brief Cactus. What did you think of Villar? Is he a major league bat? Is he a major league player? Or is he a minor leaguer off to just a crazy hot start, and he's sure to fade, and he's going to stay down there?
Well, I think he's going to be there for a while. But Wotus told me when Wo was working with Sacramento, he mentioned it. I said, who looks good? And he said Marte was pitching great. And the other one was this kid, was Villar. And I think, does he play first and third?
I believe he does. He's not on the 40, so they'd have to create a roster.
I saw him as a first baseman in spring training, and I kept saying, who is he? And but he was out there just about every game. They used him quite a bit. So let's see what he does. Look, Ramos was up and down. Now Ramos apparently is not hitting very well.
He's hitting 190. We just saw it yesterday. We looked at the stats last night. He's hitting 193 with no power.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Do they need what do they need Villar for? Where would they put him? I guess if there's an injury to Ruff or Flores, perhaps you may go with another right-handed hitting first base. Is he right-handed? I believe, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that may be his ticket to the big leagues if something happens to somebody.
The other one is Luis Gonzalez. That was curious. They sent him down. And obviously, it's a numbers game. It is an options game. And we visited with Ned on that as well. And that's always a tough one. But beyond the machinations of the transaction, just your thoughts on Luis Gonzalez, because he's hitting 350 and he's pitched. He's played center. He looks like a major league caliber hitter. Like his success is not accidental. I'm not saying he's going to hit 350. Don't get me wrong. But he looks like a major league bat.
Well, great pickup. Pickup. It's like
great pickup.
It's like Brebbia. It's like Matthew Boyd. They get these guys and they stash them until they're healthy, and they know they've got something there. Gonzalez is terrific. Now, Wade is not playing now. Wade's knee is barking again.
Right. I saw that.
Wade could go on the disabled list tomorrow, and Gonzalez could be back tomorrow. They need a Wade-type player in that outfield.
Yeah, they do.
Wade is a big deal at the top of the lineup, too. So my take on Gonzalez is he's a baseball player. He can play the game. He knows how to run. He has an above-average arm. He hits the ball to left field. He uses the entire field. He's got some power. And for a young kid, until they figure him out, right now, he's handling things very well. And I thought he made a tremendous impression. We will see him again. First sign of any trouble with any of the left-handed hitting outfielders, he's back. There's no question. You can't leave this kid after he hits 370. You can't say, all right, stay in Sacramento, till August. We'll see you then.
Right.
He'll be back.
All right, buddy. We'll let you get on with the rest of your night because I know these games in Denver are just endless. We were hoping to get on, maybe closer to 8:30, and then we could talk to you for a solid hour before it gets a little too late. But hey, have a great rest of your night, Marty, and we'll visit with you maybe next week at some point.
Yeah, Absolutely. Look, it's only May 17th.
It's beautiful.
We have a long way to go. Ryan will have a mustache by then.
He'll have 2 kids. He'll be shaving.
Dan will expand to about 6 new companies.
That's right.
A lot can happen in the next few months.
Exactly. All right, Marty, have a great night.
All right, take care.
There you go. The great Marty Lurie checking in on the Krueg show. And we, I told Marty, hey, can you hang with us for an hour, 8:30 to 9:30? And then the game doesn't even end till 9:30. So we do appreciate him doing some yeoman's work, even though he likes to get to bed, by 10. And that's only 6 minutes from now. Guys, what do you think? We've had a lot of Marty's thoughts here. What do you guys think on either game tonight? I mean, really, we're coming on after 2 games. Giants 10-7 winners over Colorado. We also got the Eastern Conference Finals game 1 in the books. First half was all Celtics. Second half was all Miami, and Miami gets the win, 118-107. Huge night for Jason Tatum, but a bigger night for Butler, who was fantastic for the Heat. Miami up 1-0, and the Warriors go tomorrow night in game 1 against the Dallas Mavericks, and we got a lot to talk about in that series as well. Dan? Do we have Dan? Or we have an issue with Dan here? Dan, are you there, buddy? Or
no, I am. I don't know what happened. I froze up or something.
You froze up. Now you got a new microphone. I see there. Look at that microphone. That's a damn good looking mic. You sound really good.
Hey,
you look marvelous. Marvelous.
Yeah, new camera too. Yeah,
new camera. Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Len got me all doctored up.
Look at you.
How did you guys have the basketball game on, or were
I was watching a little bit of it, not too much. It wasn't a great game.
Yeah, I watched the first half, and then I said, you know what? I'll tape it and I'll watch the Giants game, figuring maybe Boston was going to get the win. And then Miami, I mean, think about this game between the Heat. I mean, I was looking at some of the numbers at halftime compared to first half compared to the second half.
I think they went on a 22-2 run.
It was a dramatic turnaround. It was 62-54 Celtics at halftime. Boston in the first half shot 59%. They were plus 18 on points in the paint. Tatum had 21 in the first half. But Boston was going without Marcus Smart, who's got the foot sprain, and no Al Horford. He was in the health and safety protocols. And of course, Miami's playing without Kyle Lowry. But then Miami comes back in the second half. Boston wins the first half 62-54, and Miami wins the second half 64-45, plus 19 in the second half, and the Heat take game 1. Who did you guys like going into that series? Who do you like now?
Well, I like definitely Miami tonight because of Smart. And then when Horford went out, it was like, Miami's going to – I don't think Boston will have the horses tonight, plus Boston coming in on short rest. So I like Miami tonight. I like Boston still in the series, though.
Really?
But it depends on if Horford comes back. If Horford is out for 2 more games, 3 games – it could be.
How could he not be out for at least 1 more, right?
Well, it depends if he's, test negative or not. If he's got COVID, he's going to be out for at least 2 more because.
But Jimmy Butler was huge tonight, man. Jimmy Butler was all over the place.
Yeah, I got to say that was by far. I hope I'm not being hyperbolic, but that was by far the best singular performance of the playoffs so far. I really don't think it's even close. He dominated that second half. Like Jason Tatum. Well, like everyone on Twitter was like, "Oh my God, wait, is Jason Tatum like a top 3 guy? Like, is he like a best player on a championship guy?" When they were up and he was cooking, he stole his lunch money. There was like 3 plays in a row where he just ripped the ball, Bam's freaking blocking everyone, and Jimmy Butler, man, holy crap. I got a little scared of him. Has there ever been a player that has had more of a jump from like, fringe top 15 guy to when he gets in the playoffs, he's just like a different beast? It's crazy. So Yeah, I still like the Celtics though.
He went to the free throw line 18 times.
And they weren't like BS either. Like he was getting to the rim and forcing them into it. And Gabe Vincent, my UCSB buddy, he dropped 50 on us when I was playing at Campo. He had a really big game filling in for Lowry. He was stroking threes, and they were just so connected on defense. It kind of scared me. Like they punked them.
Well, it's going to be interesting. 29 for Tatum, 19 for Robert Williams III. Jaylen Brown had 24 and 10 rebounds. Grant Williams, who's been really good, the kid from Tennessee, he only had 7. He was minus 14. And Pritchard threw in 18 off the bench. But
Pritchard was the only one not afraid there at the end.
I mean, that's, I like Boston to win the series, but I think it's a knockdown, drag out 7-gamer.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I like Boston too. Yeah, I mean, also they coming off the short rest. Like Boston just finished a grueling series, and now they're missing guys. So I think it was expected that game 1 was, if the Heat, they got to win that one. But man, Butler's a dog. I don't know who I want less.
Well, and then you guys, what's your thought on, now that you've had a day to kind of think about Golden State, Dallas, do you guys have a thought on that? It's like, after the show last night, I watched the Dallas Phoenix last game, and, it's none of it's surprising. I mean, Luka is an incredible player. He's got the ball in his hands. He can, he can create tons of room on the step back, so he can get his shot seemingly at will. He's got a ton of range. And then he can find other guys, and it's like, Dinwiddie is playing like an all-star. I mean, Spencer Dinwiddie looks like the player he was several years ago. I didn't expect to see that. Bertans can hit a 3. Bullock can hit a 3. Bullock is really good, been good defensively. Kleber is hitting like 46% from 3 in the playoffs. So he's suddenly hot. It's a really, to me, this is going to be interesting, a very interesting game. Styles make fights. And look, forget the Mavericks beat the Warriors 3 out of 4 times. Yeah, you know what? Draymond Green wasn't there. That kind of matters. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, you can just flush that.
One of those was they were up 25 in the fourth quarter. It was the biggest collide. I remember I was at the gym watching it. It
just doesn't mean a whole lot. No. It's a contrast in styles. The Warriors play quick. They move the ball. It's a lot of player movement. It's a lot of body movement. The Mavericks play a very slow, deliberate pace. They keep the ball in the hands of Luka. They lead the NBA in time of possession. They make you defend, almost every tick on that 24-second shot clock. The Warriors, the Warriors move it. The Warriors move the ball. To me, it's going to be about Golden State with turnovers. How well can they take care of the basketball? And how well can they continue? Can the Mavericks kind of take them out of their game? The Warriors rely on a lot of body movement, a lot of ball movement, and the Mavericks, play great defense. And then, it's really their suffocating defense, which was as good as almost anybody in the NBA in the second half of the year. And then their slow it down, deliberate, almost intentional ball control type pace. Those things start working in their favor, and you start feeling as the game goes on less and less in the flow. But to me, it's really going to come down to 2 factors. Can Golden State pass the ball and minimize turnovers? That is going to be the key. Can they continue to move the ball? Body movement, player movement, ball movement, but without the turnovers. If they can move the ball and not turn it over, if they can be crisp with their passes, if they can take care of the basketball when they're moving it all over the floor, to me, that's it right there. That's it for Golden State. The big factor, I think, defensively for Dallas is going to be Bullock. Bullock and Finney-Smith have been incredible on defense in this playoff run. They held down Donovan Mitchell. They held down Devin Booker. They held down Chris Paul. Bullock did an incredible job, I thought, in the regular season defending Steph Curry. So, now, can the Warriors free themselves up? That to me is going to be key. And then what's Golden State going to do defensively against Doncic? I think that's going to obviously decide this series as well. Is Golden State going to be able to bottle up Doncic? Are they going to be able to force him into some turnovers? The one thing that Golden State likes to do is they like to go to small ball. Well, the one thing Dallas will like to do as well, they like to go small as well. So neither team has those horses in the middle that kind of take you out of your small ball game. So now we're going to see Golden State small ball against the Mavericks small ball. And, we'll see. We'll see. Dallas's defense did a really nice job on the Warriors offense in the regular season matchups. Does that continue in these playoffs? I still think, as much as I love Brunson. I think he's efficient and smart, and he gets high percentage looks in the high percentage twos. He shoots a lot of high percentage twos. He actually plays almost like a big man back to the basket and then faces up, squares the shoulders, and knocks those shots down. So you got Brunson, and you've got obviously Luka, and you've got a couple of shooters, and you got Dinwiddie. To me, I think, as much as I respect Dallas and their defense and their pace and how smart they are and Kidd and the whole deal, I like Warriors in 5. I like Warriors to beat them in 5.
Well, that's what I'm picking, even though it's not going to be easy. I don't see them blowing them out. But I did, before making my bet, I called Chardal one more time, and I did hear Warriors by 50 in the first game and 60 in game 2. So I feel real comfortable taking the over and the point spread with Chardal's advice there last night. So I'm going with the Warriors. But no, it just, in all fun aside, I really think that it's going to be a battle. But I think the Warriors, as you said, Larry, they have to slow it down with the turnovers, but still keep their ball movement going, but don't go at that hectic pace and trying to make the backdoor cuts and the bounce passes that lead the guy too much because he's being guarded. Just wait. If he's not there, don't take that risk. And I think Draymond is, he's been the catalyst of the turnovers, and Curry's had a lot of turnovers as well. But I think if they realize what they're up against. They're up against a Jason Kidd defense that has really played the best basketball of anybody in the league since January. And they were one of the hottest teams, and they were ranked second, I believe, in points. Warriors are right behind them at third. So, all 4 teams in the playoffs right now are the top 4 defensive teams. So that tells you quite a bit. And this is going to be, and that was Phoenix's downfall. Dallas in that game 7, they had wide open looks every game. Phoenix, they gave up at toward the end of the first half. You could see that their spirits were shot.
That's what I'm kind of banking on. Like, I actually think that Phoenix is a great team, and I think that there was something going on with internally. You couple together the Chris Paul injury with the Ayton stuff. The Ayton stuff, he's just straight up not going to be back on the team this year. He's not going to. That's what everyone's saying. That's what all the plugged in people are saying. So I think that there was some weirdness going on. They just didn't show any fight. Also, I think that Dallas, they played true. The Suns play a very traditional offense. Like, it's all right, Booker, we're going to screen and roll. We're going to hunt the matchup and all that kind of stuff. And that's all cool. But that is different than what the Warriors do. The Warriors are always moving. I really think the series is just going to come down to, is Steph going to Steph? If Steph if Steph can basically remind everyone that, he's still that guy. Cause I'm seeing on all these talk shows, rank the best 4 players left in the playoffs. And everybody's got him 4 or 3. And yeah, man, I just want to see him. I want to see him turn up the nos. And
did you guys see the Ringer gave the Warriors the lowest percentage chance of winning the title? And all lower than the Mavericks? Really?
Yeah, all of their NBA experts all picked the Mavericks. I think in this business, it's like if you're especially covering the NBA, you get so wrapped up in each game and having that affect your opinion so much that it's like you can't take a step away and be like, look, blowouts happen, crazy stuff happens. How about the Warriors? In these the previous years, they would play the Cavs and they would get blown out at home 2 times, and then they'd go play the Cavs and they'd blow them out twice at home, and then they'd play one close game that they'd win on the road, and it's just how it goes.
I always look for one voice of reason when it comes to picking a series, and that's Tim Legler. And
what is Leg saying?
He's got Warriors in 6.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting. Dallas plays great defense. They were second to Boston in fewest points allowed per game during the regular season. So there's no doubt they play good defense. The only thing is, though, is that Golden State's coming off of a series where they didn't play well and they won. They had one of their best defensive players, a key rotation guy, taken out in game 1. They really had to go beat 2 different Memphis teams. They had to beat the team that had Ja, then they have to beat the Grizzlies without Ja. And to me, that showed that they could adapt. But look at that series. Look at the last round. Golden State committed 19.2 turnovers per game over the games against the Grizzlies in the conference semis. And that means that included one game where they had 24 turnovers, another game where they had 22 turnovers. So are you telling me they're going to be worse than that? I don't think so. I think they're going to be better than that. And so, and they still beat Memphis, and Memphis, I think, is a deeper team, more talented team than Dallas. So we'll see. The one thing that is a little scary is that Dinwiddie is playing like an all-star. He's not playing good. He's playing incredible. They definitely feel like they're playing with the house's money. I think they kind of feel like they shouldn't be here. And so they got nothing to lose. They're going to let it all hang out. All the pressure is clearly on Golden State. But I just that's my real concern is Dinwiddie, because Dinwiddie, Dinwiddie is got some respect from NBA officials. I mean, the one thing that was pretty clear in this game, the last game against Phoenix, is that Spencer Dinwiddie got 3 or 4 calls that were 50-50 calls that could have gone either way, and he got each one of them. And he's a veteran player who's been in the league, and who knows, maybe he has a certain amount of respect with the officials, because he got a couple calls on Cam Johnson that were just, man, they were some of the most dubious calls I've seen in the entire playoff run, regardless of team. So that is the concern for me, is Spencer Dinwiddie playing like an all-star, going for 30. Luka's going to get his. To me, Brunson's game is almost impossible to stop. He kind of just settles in the mid-range when you're not really banking on it, squares those shoulders and gets high percentage looks and knocks them down. So, and he's been doing that since college at Villanova. So I think he's almost borderline unstoppable in what he tries to do, because you're not really trying to defend it. He just kind of finds room, squares the shoulders, and knocks those shots down. But Dinwiddie has got range. And the one thing about Dinwiddie, too, he can shoot the outside shot, but, man, if you close out on him too fast, he can give you a little head fake, put it on the deck, and go by you and go all the way inside. And he's pretty crafty finishing inside. So, to me, Dallas does not win unless Dinwiddie goes off. And
I'm surprised with Dinwiddie.
There's a chance he goes off, but it's a low chance.
When I look back at with Dinwiddie when he was with Brooklyn, they made the playoffs with with Atkinson. What's the Warriors?
Yeah.
Kenny Atkinson. Yep.
Atkinson. Yeah. He was the head coach, and then they let him go, and then they bring in KD, and then they let Dinwiddie go. Had they kept Dinwiddie, they would have never really got into all this mess that they had with, Harden and Kyrie.
How about just keep Jared Allen instead of DeAndre Jordan?
I know they
made some bad calls. I mean, they made some bad decisions, but you didn't know that Dinwiddie was going to be back at his pre-injury self, because that's what he looks like. He looks like the same player who was fantastic before he got hurt. Yeah. And that, that's great timing for Dallas. I'll say that. There's no doubt. Rebel 444 says Warriors in 6. Wiggins will be Mr. Smooth Criminal with offensive rebounds. Wiggins is a key guy. The one thing I'd love to see in this series, because I just don't think Dallas is so concerned about Steph and Clay and Poole and, closing out on perimeter shooters, that I think you're going to have defenders sprinting to the perimeter against a number of Warriors. And I want to see Wiggins put it on the deck. And if I was Kerr, man, I'd offer him a bounty of cash and just say, you know what, every time you flush one, I'll give you $1,000. Just something, get some kind of bounty going and get Wiggins every time he dunks it with authority. You're giving him something, dinner for 2 at his favorite restaurant, whatever you got to do to motivate him within the rules, offer it to him. Because to me, guys, when Andrew Wiggins on this team is putting it on the deck and exploding to the front of the rim, I don't think you can do both. I don't think you can defend Steph Curry, Poole, and Clay and Porter and, be in correct defensive position for an attacking Wiggins. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Wiggins attack the rim and try to flush everything. If he does that, I think that's when Wiggins becomes like the perfect player for Golden State's, for the perfect complement to the rest of their cast.
I think we'll see some more minutes out of Kuminga in this series versus more minutes than he did with Memphis. I just think his athleticism is going to be needed with not having the rim protection that Memphis had. That creates openings and possible backdoor lobs. Some tornado spin moves, going down one-on-one, taking guys in the post down deep and spinning, laying up, or slam dunking. I just see Kuminga getting some extra minutes, especially at the home games.
I want to see JTA this series. Actually, I feel like he's the kind of body also that they sort of need out there. Throw him on Luka for a little bit. Just he's the kind of guy he's not going to back down. And also, I think Wiggins will do a fine enough job on him, but like Wiggins doesn't quite have the ass that JTA as like the NFL prospect guys would say. Like, he doesn't quite have the ass. Like Luka almost put Ayton into the basket. So and
JTA has not played at all.
He's not played at all.
No. So you feel comfortable, even though he hasn't played at all, dusting him off right here?
Yeah. I thought he played really well in both of the play-in games last year. It does seem a little weird that they've seemed to have lost confidence in him. But
I didn't see him playing much in the rotation come playoff time. And I personally was advocating that the last couple of weeks of the season that they, actually use his roster spot to get a big man for the playoffs, that somebody that could come in and give you 8 to 12 minutes a game just for some rim protection. And there was a lot of guys out there that were either in the free agents that were in G League or other leagues that, I don't know why they didn't take a flyer and a chance on that, because, I know JTA is a great guy and a beloved Warrior and from Oakland and everything, but I don't know if he's going to be back next year or not. And if you're not going to use him in the playoffs, it is kind of a business that's tough, but why you wouldn't take a shot at getting a 7-footer just if you match up against certain teams, I mean, right now it's kind of worked out though for them so far. They really haven't, going into Dallas doesn't have that big bruiser, and really Miami really doesn't. And
Bam is, Bam, he freaks me out. Like when I watch him running up the court looking like Draymond Green, like
you got
he
Bam
looks like a guard with the ball in his
Celtics
hands.
Celtics got Robert
Williams. They got Robert Williams. Who would you say had the rougher route to get here so far? Warriors took down the Nuggets in 5. They beat the Grizzlies in 6. Mavericks knocked off the Jazz in 6, and then upset the top-seeded Suns, and they did it in 7. Who had the easier run to the conference finals?
Wow, that's a tough question, because I think Memphis was such a tough out because of their physicality and their length. But I mean,
Denver had Jokic too.
Yeah,
don't forget Denver had Jokic.
But I mean, we took it to Denver pretty quick. It's got to be Dallas, right? Because they had to go against Utah, and they didn't have
Luka
for the first 2, was it?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3.
It was 2, yeah,
2 or 3. Yeah, they didn't have Luka, and then they had to go, win Game 7 on the road against the number 1 team all season in Phoenix. So, yeah, I think Phoenix had the tougher path. Good news
for Golden State. Otto Porter is not even on the injured list, so he's going to go. He's got the sore right foot, but he's not even on the injured list. Kerr has been cleared by the NBA's health and safety protocols, so he'll be back on the bench. Andre Iguodala, they're saying, could return as early as Friday for Game 2. A lot of this is going to come down to how does Golden State do defending Luka Doncic. No teams had the solution for Doncic. He's dominated against the Jazz. He went for 29. He shot 47%. Against Phoenix, he went for 32 a game on average. Shot 46%. The Warriors have options. The one thing Golden State has is it's not readily apparent. It's not like they have a guy who can slow down Luka. They've got an army of guys. I mean, do you go at him with bigger players like Draymond or Porter or Kevon Looney? Do you go small at him with Clay? A lot of people feel like Clay's not the right call post-injury. Do you go with Wiggins? The one thing I would love to see is I'd love to see the Warriors make Doncic work on both ends of the floor. Make him work on the defensive end of the floor. And I think they're going to try to make Steph work on the defensive end of the floor as well. I think that's going to be part of Dallas's game plan.
They're going to put Luke in a lot of pick and rolls.
That's the frustrating thing, is that like the Warrior, like how can you hate on it because it's brought so much success, but like they are pretty against doing the sort of hunting deal, like the hunting Ja Morant, the hunting hunting Luka, in a way, like especially compared to Dallas. Like Dallas is going to be doing that. That's all they're going to be doing nonstop, is just hunting. So I don't know.
To me, the other key in this series, and tell me what you think of this one. Get Jordan Poole. Emphasize going to Jordan Poole in Game 1. Get him off in this series early. Don't let that, he started the playoffs, he looked like a world beater. Then he went ice cold. And this last series, he felt very untrustworthy. Like you didn't know what you were going to get from him. Get him going early. Because to me, if you can get Poole going early, Golden State becomes like, oh my God, how do I defend this team? Right? How do I defend a team that, where Jordan Poole's going off, that also has Klay Thompson and Steph Curry? Oh yeah, we can't leave Otto Porter. He makes 45% from beyond the arc. And then all of a sudden there's Bielitsa. I mean, this team, I think, is the feeling against Golden State is kind of, when Poole is hot, there's a hopelessness to defending Golden State.
Because it's also, there's Steph. Yeah,
right. Because Steph's so incredible.
I totally agree with the chat right now. Tom Pierce and Jackson J needs shots driving to the bucket, and he's saying we'll be able to get to the hoop way better against the Mavs. I totally agree. I think that is the missing thing, is that it was so clogged up versus Memphis that Poole was kind of just hucking his threes. And I mean, Poole's a great shooter, don't get me wrong. And he, can go on heat checks with the best of them, but he needs to get to the hoop. He needs to get, he's going to blow by Dallas. There's going to be so much room down there. And I think I totally agree. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. We didn't talk about it, but he only played 23, 24 minutes in that game 6. Loon played career high, like 30 something. So yeah, they went away from him.
Jaguayo 56 makes a $5 donation. He says, Krueger, do you feel Kerr might implement some type of a zone against the Dallas Mavericks? I'd like to see the Warriors attack the rim and then make free throws, turnovers, try to keep them to 8 to 10. I mean, the turnovers are the key. I mean, my goodness. I mean, they averaged 19 in the Memphis series. They had a 22 and a 24. I mean, just take care of the basketball. Just take care of the basketball. Value every possession. Get Jordan Poole going, and I think you're going to win this thing easily. I think this is going to be the quickest pivot from wow, everybody loves the Mavericks to the Mavericks can't. They didn't have nearly enough to beat the Warriors. My guess is, guys, that the commentary coming out of this Western Conference Finals is that, Golden State hasn't played anybody.
I mean, it's going to be so frustrating. But
it's going to be frustrating, but that's coming. Golden State's going to beat this team, and then everybody's going to come out of that series going, Dallas didn't really have anybody.
Luka was all by himself. It's going to be like the LeBron Cavs, basically. It's going to be all of a sudden LeBron had no help.
Yeah. That's my read. That's my read on how the nation is going to respond to this thing. They're going to watch Golden State win, and then they're going to sit there and basically diminish the victory and try to make it seem like it was, not much. I mean, I heard Skip Bayless came out and said that Jimmy Butler's the best player left in the playoffs. Really? I mean, where's the disrespect for Steph Curry is just off the charts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
It's because of the LeBron. It's because he stole I understand it as a big Steph fan. It's because he stole the spotlight from LeBron and everyone anointed him the best player. And I remember listening to Colin Cowherd doing segments about how, Steph Curry might be the next Michael Jordan, not LeBron. And that it just festered up in all these LeBron fans. And then all of a sudden, once the, 2016 thing happened, it was like vindication but so I mean overall it's just kind of a carryover from that, but now it's like he's the biggest name left in the playoffs. He's the only top 75 player on that list left in the playoffs, so he's the one that it's going to make it's going to be the most fun to nag and make fun of and diminish, and then also make fun of when he loses.
Yeah, Bayless hates everything about the Bay Area.
Man, he used to be here, man. He used to work for the San Jose Mercury News.
Exactly, yeah. But he's got his Cowboys over the Niners, and then, Niners are constantly taking it to him. But, one thing I'd like to see happen tomorrow night is I'd like to see more of Steph taking the ball up the court instead of Draymond, running the offense through Steph. And if they double team him and trap, get the ball to the top of the key to Draymond and let the Warriors go 4-on-3. Draymond can then facilitate. He can drive it to the hoop and take it all the way in for a layup or kick it out for an open 3. But you got 4-on-3 if they trap Steph, and I think that's what the Warriors, I know they like to have Draymond run the offense and have Steph just run around in circles and not only get open shots, but tire the defense out. And you'll see that. But I want to see Curry also taking the ball up the court and facilitating the offense through him. That's really what they started to do on that run in the fourth quarter against Memphis in game 6. They were, if you notice, Steph was starting to walk the ball up the court, and he was taking his time, and he was running the shot clock down, and then, he was running the offense. And they got what? They went on I can't even remember what it was, 10-0 run or something like that to close it out, but they slowed it down. They weren't doing, this running up the court full speed, trying to, and then throwing a pass. And They just started slowing it down, running their offense. And you cannot you got to win the possession game. You can't give Dallas all these extra shots and the Warriors miss out on 10 possessions because they have 22 turnovers. If they can limit it to 10 to 12 turnovers, I don't see how Dallas can beat them, because that's 10 extra shots that they're taking. And if they make 4 of them, and one of them's a 3-pointer, there's 9 points right there. If I did my math right.
Jackson J, you better be doing your math right. You're a financial planner. Jackson J says this morning Skip said he's tired of the showboating Warriors. Maybe it's because we're fan. I'm a fan of the Warriors, so I don't maybe see the showboating. I don't know. To me, that's an unfounded criticism. I think that's a bogus criticism. I don't see them showboating any more than anybody else. Name me the guy on the Warriors that showboats. Who is it?
Well, okay. What everyone hates is
Poole, maybe.
Yeah, a little Poole. I mean, Curry does the dancing and all that. But have you seen that meme that's like it's like flirting. It's like flirting versus harassment. And then it's just like the super good looking guy and then the super ugly guy. And everyone always tweets it out like when Ja Morant does his like dancing, like as if like, everyone's cool with the Curry, like because the Curry thing seems kind of authentic and it's like Curry's so awesome. And then the other one is Ja Morant. Sorry, the visual memes don't go over as well. but yeah.
Well, how about Luka laughing every time he hits a 3, and he's laughing going down the court, backing up. I don't know who he's laughing at. If he's laughing at
who's he laughing at?
If it was the fans, or
he's laughing at Booker for sure. I mean,
he was laughing at Cam Johnson when he put Cam Johnson, on the ground, and then he stuck the 3 in his face. The big question here, we all know Dallas's defense is good. The question is, how good? How good is Dallas's defense? Now, the Phoenix Suns shot at least 50% in their first 8 playoff games, okay? And then they took on Dallas. Dallas held Phoenix under that mark the final 5 games of the series. That's pretty impressive, guys. The Suns shot 24% in the first half of Game 7 and fell behind by 30. And that was pretty much it. Mavericks also held Phoenix to their 3 lowest scoring games, regular season included, in the series. Game 3, Game 6, and Game 7. And Dallas was second to Boston in fewest points allowed per game in the regular season. So Celtics finished at 104.5. Mavericks finished at 104.7. So I guess I'll throw it to you guys. How good? We know Dallas's defense is good. How good? How good is Dallas's D in your mind?
Good relative to the NBA today. I think that's what everyone else gets twisted is like they all saw everyone's brains got broken by the Warriors and the Cavs. And it's every year you could predict that they were going to the finals, and especially with the Warriors, how good they were. Right. And now everyone sees this Warriors team and they're like, oh my God, they're mortal. Like they just got blown out by 40 and like, oh, they're kind of like these games are really close to versus Memphis, but it's like, that doesn't mean that they're still not the best team potentially. And so I think I just think that there's no crazy mega super Miami Heat with LeBron, Wade, Bosch team or Warriors. There's no team like that right now. So it's like comparatively to all of these teams, Dallas is pretty, their defense is good, but they're not like a historic defense. They're no better than the Rockets or the Raptors that we played in the finals. I think that I think they're probably a B+ defense,
Danny, what do you think? How good is Dallas's D? We saw them totally throw the shackles on Phoenix. Are they going to be able to do the same thing to Golden State? Are they going to be able to turn off Golden State's offensive faucet?
They may be able to do that in a game or so in Dallas. I think their defense is solid. Obviously, they're right near the top, and they're quick. They move. One thing I noticed about them is, especially Game 7, they were so ultra motivated that every play they were playing at 110%. I mean, every play. They had the mic on some of the guys, and it was like you could hear Jason Kidd, telling move this way, go trap back move, go. It was every play, and these guys were intense. And obviously you don't see that in a regular season game, but in a game 7, do or die, they were. So I think they might have a possible letdown on game 1. Game 1 is the Warriors got to come out. If Dallas gets off to an early lead, that just gives them a spark and keeps them, hey, we can steal game 1. Warriors got to spank them. Okay. They just got to come out and really give it to Dallas, because Dallas is coming off of 2 days rest. They've had Monday and today. The Warriors have had 4 full days. Okay. They've had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. When did they play game 4? Friday?
Yeah.
Yep.
So they had the weekend plus yesterday and today, as far as 4 days of rest to get their legs back. And here's the thing I say about Golden State. It's a calculated team. It's a veteran team. And I think the veteran in them is what's going to pull this series out, because they weren't playing regular season, to get the 1 seed. They've done that. They lived that. They know that they didn't care what seed they got. They wanted to finish.
They still have home court throughout the entire thing.
Right. They still have it. And they weren't even, pushing for it. They were pushing for health at the end. They knew that, guys were down, and they just were like, okay, let's just get everybody healthy, ready for the playoffs. And it's a different animal in the playoffs. And I think as the further Dallas goes, which now they're in the conference finals, the pressure goes up. Last year they the last couple of years.
You think the pressure's on Dallas? I kind of think the pressure's on Golden State. I mean, Dallas is playing with the house's money, aren't they? I mean, I agree with Jackson J. He says Mavs are on a roll right now, and they're in rhythm. I kind of agree. I think the pressure's on Golden State. You think the pressure's on Dallas, really?
No, I'm not saying the pressure's on them. I'm saying that not like they're not going to go in, but I think as the series progresses, they're going to start feeling more pressure.
Yeah, well, Dan, that's an interesting point, because you know what? I'll give the Grizzlies this. We've seen the Warriors do the Warriors thing where they blow you out or whatever, and the teams crumble. They just give up, and the series, it just boom, wrap it up. Memphis never gave up. We never broke their soul. So I wonder if this Dallas team is the kind of team that would roll over potentially if they get shellacked a few times. I mean,
well, they got shellacked kind of in Phoenix the first 2, and then they came back. Point. So I'm just saying that I think Golden State's veteran core, and the fact that they've been to 5 NBA championships in a row, and they, the last 2 years they were out, and now they're back in it. I just think they are very hungry to get back on the top of the heap again. I just don't think they know what it feels like. And they also know that their window's closing. I really believe
there's some desperation there. There's some urgency on the Warriors' part. Absolutely. They don't know. They have no idea if they're ever going to be in this spot with this group again.
Even if I think they've got maybe after this year 2 years at best with this core to win a championship.
And the West is only going to get better. I mean, Kawhi's going to come back. Nuggets are going to get Murray and Porter back.
No, the expectation of the young core needs to be dialed way down. Warrior fans need to get realistic. Yeah. Come on. I like Kuminga. I like Moody. I like Wiseman. Those 3 guys aren't winning anything.
It takes 4 or 5 years in the NBA to get to that.
That core right there is a totally unproven, unknown core. The first core, those guys are Hall of Famers. Right. Those guys have done it.
Yeah, these guys are.
The other guys they're nice players. Nothing more, nothing less.
This reminds me of the Chicago Bulls when they won 3 straight. Then Jordan went and played baseball. Took 2 years off or a year and a half. Came back and didn't quite get it. And then the next 3 they won it again. The Warriors are at that spot where they are determined to. I mean, Clay, if you listen to Clay and watch, before he even came back this year, he was itching to get into playoff basketball, and he felt very good about this team. So they are not in a position, I believe, to take anything off. I don't see them taking their foot off the gas. They got 8 more wins they need, and I just think this team is out to prove something, not just for themselves, but they want the respect back. They're not getting the national respect.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah. So I see these guys like saying, you know what, we got another level. And they do have another level. And
I don't think we've seen Golden State really play their best ball.
No, we haven't.
That's the thing. I mean, I think they know they need to find their best level, and they haven't found it yet. And that's a great spot to be in when you're in the conference finals. Mark Graves says Warriors have better shooters than Phoenix. If the Warriors are hitting the outside shots, it's going to open up the paint for drives. I think that's true. Clarence Beeks says, for the record, this is a tack-on title. If we get absolutely anything from James Wiseman and draft Jovic, we may not be done. By the way, tonight was the draft lottery. Orlando wound up with the number 1 pick. OKC wound up with the 2nd pick. Houston wound up with the 3rd pick. Sacramento moved from 7 up to 4. So the Kings 1, 2, 3, 4. Orlando, OKC, Houston, Sacramento. By the way, join us in the morning, tomorrow morning at 10:30 Pacific time. Matt Babcock, who's the senior NBA draft analyst for the Basketball News, is going to join me tomorrow morning for a live stream. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming NBA draft and who's going to be in the lottery and who the Warriors have 3 picks. The Warriors have, I think, the 28th pick at the end of round 1. They also have the 57th pick in round 2, and they have the 51st pick in round 2. So they got 3 picks in the draft, and Matt Babcock is phenomenal at breaking down all these guys. So bright and early, we'll talk Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren and Boncaro and Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray and AJ Griffin and Okai Agbaji from KU, who looks so good in the tournament. My favorite player in the entire draft is a high school kid named Leonard Miller, who reminds me a lot of Kevin Garnett. And he may be, they say he's going 32nd, so he may be on the board for the Warriors at the end of round 1. Remember that name, Leonard Miller. But Babcock will join us tomorrow for a live stream. NBA draft analyst from the Basketball News, 10:30 tomorrow. So that should be fun. Looking forward to talking about the upcoming draft. I haven't seen this kid Jovic, but I think he's a 6'10" player that a lot of people like who played in Europe this year. I got to check him out. Draft, I think, is not until August, maybe first week in August 5th, something like that. And we will have some NBA draft hopefuls on the. It used to be in June.
I always thought they did it before the
4th of July.
Yeah,
usually. But this year they pushed it back. I believe the Chicago pre-draft is this week or next. And I think the draft, Ryan could look it up, but I think it's August 5th or August 4th, something like that this year. It's usually like the 28th of June. Usually last week in June.
June 23rd.
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe Chet Holmgren from Gonzaga goes number 1.
He'll go 2.
I was texting my buddy Bill Duffy, the NBA agent, and he reps, I believe, Holmgren. So that's a nice one right there.
No, it's not August. It's June. June 23rd.
What is June?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, June 23rd.
Okay, June 23rd. So it's coming up.
Yeah,
so we're about 6 weeks out
because they have free agency. Starts right around the 2nd, 3rd, 4th of July. And
I thought I read in a couple spots that they pushed the draft back. No, it's June 23rd. All right. I stand corrected.
Yeah, because they always that plays upon which teams you're going to want to sign free agents, and then they're usually playing summer league ball by late July, aren't they?
Usually in Vegas.
I'm excited to see the Summer League Thunder. They're going to be funky. I think they're going to get Chet. Oh, someone's at the door.
Who's at the front door? Who is at the freaking front door?
Hey, it's Hutch.
Jay Hutch, the pride of Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Jay Hutch, what's on your mind tonight? You want to talk Giants? You want to talk Warriors? There's a story that I'm going to get into about a woman's dog in Northern California who fought off a mountain lion. We've got that story still pending.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's what you really stick around for, I know. But what's on your mind?
I just want to talk about the Dubon trade, and I think how it could be a mistake.
Well, you heard what Marty said. He said they gave away Dubon, and it's hard to disagree because what do they get? They got a minor league catcher who the best thing we can say about him is that he's a switch hitter. He's a 210 minor league hitter. 210.
I also think the timing of it was off. I feel like they could have just sent someone down who had an option. Like, was Jason Bosser on the team?
No,
I don't know.
he's
I feel
already
like
down.
They could have sent someone down, kept Dubon, because one, you didn't know if Listella was going to come back and, play and be good because, I feel like they needed to keep him until about June. Let Listella come back for a month. Let Bart see where he's at. If Bart doesn't, work out or whatever, and if Listella is playing well, maybe you could have packaged Bart and Dubon and actually get some value out and do a 2-for-1. You'd also clear up a roster spot for there. And I feel like they should have kept Dubon in the sense of if Listella did come back and got injured and didn't work out, then, it'd have been nice to have Dubon. So I just think it was bad timing, and they did give it away, and it just felt like it wasn't even for anything good. So that's my only concern. I felt like if Bart didn't work out, they could have packaged Dubon and him 2-for-1, clear up a roster spot. And if Listella, gets hurt, I just feel like they did it too soon. I felt like they could have waited until June 1st at least.
Well, I mean, I think it was pretty much, I think Dubon's fate was sealed after his second or third high profile, minor league base running play. I mean, that's, you don't get like endless options to show at the major league level that you're a major league player. He had major league tools. He had major league bat speed. He had major league arm strength. He had major league foot speed, but he didn't have major league instincts. And it really showed itself on the base paths. I mean, he really could not be trusted. I mean, I would say he made 2 or 3 of the most ill-advised decisions I've seen on the baseball diamond, on the base pass in a long time. I mean, seriously, I mean, he made some really, really bad calls. So to me, in my mind, that's where they just said, you know what? No. And then when they made the trade for Thairo Estrada, and then Estrada in their minds was clearly the better player. And I agreed with that. I think he was better. But the timing was interesting because, Dubon was called up and he was starting to settle in. He was starting to contribute some decent things, both offensively and defensively. And they didn't get anything for him. I don't think the catcher they got for him is any good at all. And I don't think the catcher they got for him has any real future at all. So what did you really get? You got a minor league left-handed fill-in catcher who's going to be okay for what? A week, 10 days, 2 weeks max, and you gave away a player that you traded Drew Pomeranz and Ray Black to get. It doesn't add up. I think the Giants wound up losing that trade, but they were done with the player. It's pretty obvious. And I understand because, I mean, he was frustrating to watch. Now in Houston, I think there's going to be people in Houston who are going to say, wow, look at this guy. Look at the bat speed. Look at the foot speed. Look at the talent. And then they're going to have to learn for themselves that he cannot be trusted, on the base pass in key situations. And maybe it'll cost them a high-profile game, and then they'll wise up. Or maybe he'll learn from his mistakes and become better. But to me, I don't know how your guys read on it, Ryan or Dan or Hutch. But my read was that he basically had 3 really horrendous base running plays. And I think you get 1. When you get to 2 and 3, then it's like, no, Now we're moving on. And I think that's where they were at as an organization. That's just my feeling, because otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? He's versatile. He's a grew up a Giants fan. He's got, as I said, good tools, foot speed, bat speed, arm strength, and he plays all over the place. I mean, nobody's more versatile. The guy can play second, short, third, left, right, center. I mean, really, outside of catching and pitching, what can't the guy do? I mean, pretty much can play every spot on the diamond. So I didn't get it. I didn't love DeBon, as you can tell, but I didn't think he was a good trade either.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot going for him.
Go ahead. Well, let Danny weigh in here for a second. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I really like DeBon just because of his athleticism, his ability to play everywhere. I really was hoping the Giants would groom him as like a Chris Taylor, because he's still at that age. I don't know what he was, 28, something around there. He looked like he was starting to come into his own. He got stronger in the off season. You could see, and he started really playing. Plus, he's a natural shortstop. He gives Craw that break when you need to, get Craw out, give him some rest. DeBon can play short. He's got a good arm. What
do you think of this one, Danny? Matthew Mears says DeBon's better than Longoria, kind of suggesting that really the Giants just didn't want to eat the money on Longoria and cross that bridge, so they chose DeBon instead.
Well, I don't know if he's better than Longoria, but
what I talk to you about, guys. When is Longo's time up, you think? I would have felt like,
I think his contract ends this year.
Especially with Luis Gonzalez and DuPont and Estrada, I feel like we have a lot of number of guys who can play third. And, as long as he produces and hits, obviously they're going to keep him. He's a veteran, he's a leader and all that. But if, he's getting up there in age and obviously the money that we're paying him, when do you guys see the Giants moving on from him?
After this year, I think his contract, isn't this his last year?
I believe so. The thing about his contract, Bobby Evans obviously traded for him, and I think somebody else is paying part of his contract, right? I think Tampa's paying part of it.
Yeah.
So he's not quite on the hook for the full boat. Believe me, that was not Farhan's wish. They're waiting for that deal to be up so they can move off. There have been better options at third base almost every offseason, but they can't go down any of those roads because they're tied to Longoria. So I think that's really the problem. I think Dan pegged it right. I think at the end of the year, he'll be gone.
Something else I wanted to look at. We've been talking a lot about Joey Bart. What do you guys – I know his batting average is 185, but listen to this. Look at Brandon Crawford right now. His on-base percentage for the year is 299, okay? Joey Bart is hitting 185, but his on-base percentage is
330. 338, something like that, right?
Or is it 310? So I was just looking at it. I think
it's 330. He's got a good on-base percentage. I get it. But here's the thing. He hit 214 in April. And now in May, look at his splits. He's hitting like 064. So
yeah, but you heard Ned
have a good on-base percentage, but man, 064 is 064.
Right. But Ned was saying last night, he doesn't really worry about what his catcher hits as long as he plays really good defense and handles the pitching staff. And it seems like Joey's done really well this year. He's kind of stepped it up. But the fact that he is getting on base more than normal tells me a couple of things. One, he's taking more pitches and getting on base and not swinging at everything. And so his eye's getting better. I think he's going to improve his average as he plays. And if he could hit 2.25 and hit double-digit home runs, whether it's 10 to 15 home runs. He's at 3.5 right now, right? Or 4.5. Let's see. I'm counting a half, the one off Pujols.
But I mean, yeah, if he can hit 2.25, but I mean, at this point, that's a huge if. There's been 2 months of baseball. He hasn't hit 225 in either month.
Yeah, but
and it's not getting better; it's getting worse.
He's got 65 at bats for the year, and he's got 12 hits. But if you have a 3 for 4 night soon, that drives your average up 30 points. In real quick.
Yeah, no,
So, I don't look at batting averages. To me, batting averages don't mean a lot until after you've had 100 at bats, because guys get into streaks. I mean, Jock Peterson was hitting 350, 360 before he pulled his abductor, and then he goes in a 1 for 28 slump, and now he's down in the low twos. He'll snap out of it. We saw Ruff start the year, he was on the bingo card, right? What is Darren Ruff hitting right now?
He's hitting 250 plus, I think, at least.
Let me pull
But
it
you're
up.
also talking about guys who are established at the big league level. This is a player who's a 294 minor league hitter. I think it's probably likely that, that's 50 to 70 points higher than what you can expect. So
that's why I
if
say
it's
if he can
70 points higher, that's 220.
If he hits 220, 225, and he catches well and he cuts down on the strikeouts, I don't think it's time to give up on Joey Bart yet at all. I mean, they're in.
Well, give up in what way? I mean, give up at the major league level, or and send him down for more seasoning. I don't think it's time.
Get rid of him out of the organization. I don't think if you have to send him down.
What can you get? I mean, what can you get? I need to know what I can get. If I'm not giving him away. Why would they rush to give him away? He's a second pick in the draft. He's got huge right-handed power. They're the ones who invested the pick in him. There's no reason for them to give him away. It's not like not at all. You're not going to get it better as a team by giving him away, but you may want to not let him get buried. Major league teams don't often like to let their prospects of note get buried. If they let him stay at the major league level for an extended period of time, to me that states that they don't think he's very good, because they are just they don't feel like there's anything to be gained from more time in the minors, more seasoning.
Sometimes guys have a bad rookie year. I mean, Matt Williams wasn't lighting it up in 1987,
right?
And look what he became. It's tough to adjust, but I look at it this way. Has Joey Bart cost them any games in the standings this year? I don't think so.
Well, of course he has. He's hitting 064 for the month.
Yeah, but is there a game where you look back and go, man,
has Bart he had a high profile mistake or error that led to
has he come up in a key situation where
I guarantee you he has. He's hitting 064. He's not hitting at all, Dan. He's not hitting at all.
Well, he's hitting 185 right now. He's not great. I'm not saying that's good at all.
Go look at the splits. Go look at the splits. What's he hitting in May?
Let me pull it up here.
He's hitting under 100 in May. So, if you're hitting under 100, that means you're making a lot of outs. And that means that you're coming up in some key situations and you're making outs.
You could take that, though, with any player. Look at Jock. What's he hitting?
Jock's a proven major leaguer.
Right. So what I'm saying is,
so there's a chance Jock pulls out of it. There's a chance that Joey Bart doesn't pull out of it. And that's the thing. Do you keep him at the major league level and, watch him go from 214 in April to 064 in May? And how long do you go? I mean,
I think we're seeing a little bit of a turn of the guard in that you see in Casale get 2 out of 3 games in this series. So Bart will go tomorrow. My guess is that Casale will start the series Friday, and then Saturday is a day game. You'll see Bart, and I bet you'll see Casale Sunday, unless Bart breaks out in a couple of these games. But they're gonna pull
There
back
hasn't been
on
a high-profile mistake where where everybody and their brother calls up the post-game show and is like, Bart cost us to this game. I'll grant you that, but I mean, a Rebel 444 says it here. He says, yeah, Bart made errors against the Marlins. He had a golden sombrero. So I'd say at least one loss is solely on him. But with that said, I still want to ride with Joey this year. I mean, I get it. I get it. I mean, it's
so Larry, is your kind of thinking like, let's get value from this guy while we can before he's proven to just be,
No. You're already. He's doing bad enough. It's not like it's not like that's. It's not like anybody right now is going to sit there and go, it's not about trading him before the value goes away. I'm not a fan of trading him. I'm not talking about trading him. I'm talking about just farming him out and giving him a break and having him take a breath.
Number 2 draft pick in the entire draft. He's had success at all the levels of the minor leagues,
but not really. Not the kind of success that you need to have. Not 294 in AAA is not proving. That's not dominating.
It's not bad.
That's not dominating. That's not dominating the level.
What did Buster hit in AAA? Like 350?
Let me look.
Luke Williams is hitting 424 in the same league.
Fair, but also Luis Gonzalez.
All I'm saying is this kid needs more. I mean, there's a chance that he's just going to be a low average guy. There's a chance, everybody thinks, oh, you drafted him second overall, he's going to be awesome. He could be Mike Zanino. What's Mike Zanino? Mike Zanino is a big, strong catcher who can pop 15 home runs and hit 211. That right now that's what and there are baseball scouts that said when Bart was coming out, his comp is Mike Zanino. So,
okay, Buster in 2009, AAA had 497 plate appearances, 422 at bats, 137, hit 325. So Buster hit 30 points higher than Joey hit. Joey hit 294.
Buster hit the ground running, though. He was rookie of the year, made an impact, and we don't win the
It's
World
also a different game today.
It's also you're also not factoring in. Farhan's already said, hey, you know what? Joey Bart struck out too much and didn't walk enough. His strikeout percentage was roughly 30%. His walk percentage was far beneath what they wanted.
I love that. Joey Lance, Trey Bart.
Yeah,
exactly. Joey Wiseman.
The game.
Yeah, and seriously, I agree with Stephen J here. Seriously, stop it with the Buster. Come on, man.
Okay, I'm not bringing up Buster. I'm just like trying to
stop it. What are we talking about here? What are we really talking about? One guy won a batting title. The other guy's hitting 056 this month.
But, the game
There's a huge divide there.
The game has definitely changed though in the last 10 years. Now you got every specialist throwing a heat at 100 miles an hour coming into and back in, the Giants run that they had from 10 to 14, you had guys that were specialists like Javi Lopez that could come in and pitch to one batter, and then you bring in another pitcher. Now you got guys throwing gas. The Giants didn't have anybody that threw even close to 100 back then. And now every team has at least 2 or 3. So it's a lot harder to come up against a different pitcher every time almost. You rarely see the guy a third time anymore through the road. If you start, you might get a guy 3 times, but generally it's twice, and then you're facing a different pitcher your next 2 at bats. So that's why baseball's batting averages are dropping is, they're facing different pitchers all the time. And look at the Giants. They bring up guys from the minors and then they send them back down. It's hard if you have never seen a guy. So I just don't think batting averages is a measure that should be the ultimate measure when measuring a player. You want to look at on-base percentage, OPS, slugging percentage. I mean, the walks is really, Farhan values a walk just as much as he does a single.
He's hitting 083 against lefties, 208 against righties. I don't know.
Who's hitting 083 against lefties?
Joey Bart.
Wow, reverse splits, huh?
083 against lefties, 208 against righties, 130 in May, 214 in April. The on-base percentage is definitely good. He's drew 12 walks early. I mean, he's got some walks for sure. He's got double-digit walks. So that's good. He's shown improvement. I'm just all I'm saying is, if you really care about the kid's development, you probably would rather see him in the minor leagues getting seasoning. He's swinging through a ton of pitches.
He's not going to right field. I say
he's hitting 143 with runners in scoring position.
When you see Joey start going to right field, then you'll know that he's got his stroke down, because when he can take the pitch, the outside corner, and instead of trying to pull it and swing through it, go with the pitch, slap it into right field, right center. He's got power to all fields, okay? He's just up there hacking, and he's not recognizing pitches. That's the problem. He's not recognizing the spin. He's not seeing things coming, and he's guessing wrong, and he's looked really, really foolish. I think stepping him back like they have, giving Casale 2/3 of the games, and now reversing that, giving Joey, one game a series, if that's the trend that continues, it will allow him to step back and not put so much pressure on himself. The other thing that Ned said last night is,
Danny, you'd rather have that. You'd rather have Kurt Casale starting 2 of every 3 games and Joey Bart, second pick in the draft. You'd rather, instead of having him down in the minor leagues, getting regular at-bats and improving his craft, you'd rather him be in the pressure cauldron of Major League Baseball with stats that are in a free fall, playing sporadically. You think that's the better route? Because I don't.
I'd like to hear Ned's perspective on that, because I mean, I think it's just a matter of, I don't know. I think it probably depends on the player's psychology. I mean,
that's what Ned was saying last night. What's in the player's head? You got to know your players. And as a GM, he knew what his players, and being in touch, step and barrel with your manager. What's going on in Joey's head? Is he defeated, or does he have that mojo still that says, I can pull through this? If he's got the mojo and the confidence, going down to the minors isn't going to do him any good. Been there, done that.
Well, I would agree with that if that were indeed the case, but he's never hit 300 in the minors.
He may not be a 300 hitter. There's not that many.
You got to be a 300 hitter in the minors, or you don't go to the majors.
No, you don't. Not as a catcher.
Danny, show me a guy who's been a career minor league sub 300 hitter in the PCL who hit in the majors. Show me the guy. Show me anybody. Show me any player that has been sub 300 in the minor leagues and came to the majors and was a good major league hitter. Who established themselves and had a major league career after never hitting 300 in AAA?
Let's check Max Muncy's stats.
The PCL is a hitter's paradise.
Of course it is, more so than the International League even.
Yeah, so I mean, you got to do it there. I just saw an interview with Farhan, who he was talking about Elliot Ramos, but I'm sure that it applies to Bart as well. He's like, you know what? You don't get called up until you show mastery of that level. And so people were saying, well, why not call him up? He's got some good stats and some power stats and this and that. And he's like, you know what? You got to see mastery at that level. And he was like, hey, Joey Bart hit 294 at this level last year. He said that. So I don't know. I'm not anti-Joey Bart. I just think that if we can have a real debate like we're having over what is the best route to unearth whatever he's got. And
okay,
I would say the best route.
Muncy's stats.
I would say the best route is to get him in the minor leagues get his bat going with consistent. First of all, I believe that you got to play. I think you got to play to get better. And I think he's got to play. Go ahead.
Well,
Hey Larry,
Muncy.
I have a
Go ahead.
I have a little trade thing, and I was wondering if you'd do it. So let's say the Giants already knew that they were going to get rid of Dubon. Say they would have just kept him, see if Bart would have figured it out until around June. If he didn't figure it out, you go to the Cubs and say, hey, Cubs, we'll trade Dubon, Bart, and if you even want a third player for Wilson Contreras, would you do it?
Who's the trade? Bart and who?
Bart, Dubon, and even if they wanted a third player for Contreras, the catcher.
Oh, no. I mean, come on, man. You got to get real. We're talking about how Joey Bart. Dan wants to keep Joey Bart in the major leagues. Joey Bart can't hit a lick. Contreras just hit 330, and he's a catcher. And you're going to get him for Bart and Dubon? Come on, that's crazy talk. They're not. They watch the games too. So I mean, I like Dubon, I like Bart, but man, if I'm the Cubs and I got a catcher who's a free agent at the end of the year, who's a proven entity behind the plate. I mean, last I checked, the Yankees are still in this league. I think I might call Cashman and say, you know what, how would you like Contreras? And I think he might be able to give you a little bit better offer than Dubon and Bart. That's a very Giant-centric kind of a deal.
I don't know about that, actually, because if he's on his last year of his deal, I mean, what did we have to trade for?
He's not old.
Like they basically gave away all their Cubbies last year. All their guys, they pretty much gave away.
More of like, what would it take? You know,
I think it would take. Honestly, I think it would probably take Bart and maybe Gregory Santos and maybe Elliot Ramos or, Palmares or one of their young outfielders of note. I mean, just last year for a rental on Chris Bryant, who was going to be a free agent like 5 weeks later, they had to give Alexander Canario, who has like Sammy Sosa like bat speed, and Caleb Killian. Killian went to the fall league and looked like very much the best pitcher in that league. I mean, he pitched, I believe, in the title game and pitched well. So that was a hot pitcher. That was one of the Giants' hottest pitchers in all of the minor leagues last year from the Giants' perspective, and a young outfielder who was an A-ball, but with incredible bat speed and tools. And they got Chris Bryant for how many games? How many games did he play with the Giants last year?
Right.
So I think the price tag on Contreras, especially because it's a catcher and you're probably going to pay a premium.
Oh yeah,
and I think it's going to be high.
You mentioned you want to see Casale play every 2 games and Bart 1. Would you? Are you saying you wouldn't want to see Casale play 2 right now and Bart 1, or what are you saying, Larry?
No, Casale is a backup catcher.
Sure, he is, and playing.
And I would play. Yeah, I mean, I would. Right, as long as Joey Bart's on the roster, then I like the idea of going 2 for Casale and one for Bart, because Casale right now is digging his way out of it and he's starting to hit the ball hard. Yeah. And last year we saw Casale. When he looked awful initially.
We had
and
a hand injury.
Got going, and he looked pretty good.
Yeah, he came out of spring training. He had a hand injury that was off season, and he never really got it going.
Yeah, so I'm fine with them playing Casale over Bart right now at the major league level. I'm just saying, long term, when I say like in the weeks ahead, what are they going to do? I'd much rather. I've got higher hopes for Joey Bart than to just bury him at the major league level and just play him. What you're talking about is maybe giving him like 6 or 7 ABs a week. And I don't think that's going to be enough. I think I'd rather him farmed out, call up this whatever guy they just traded for from Houston, the left-handed catcher, and
that may be an option.
And take the pressure off. Take the pressure off the kid.
That may be what they, as a backup, they may be saying, okay, let's see how Joey does through May.
Because the body language, Danny. I mean, let's look at the body language. The body language the last 10 days is terrible. Terrible. He swings through pitches. He hangs his head. He looks like he's never going to get a hit. He looks defeated. Like he's on the treadmill. It's he's starting to get worn down.
I hear you.
All I'm saying is take the pressure off of him and get him down, maybe with your roving hitting instructor, and let's look at your film and let's look at you swinging through all these pitches. And I like what you did here because you've obviously demonstrated more plate discipline than you had last year. So we're seeing growth, we're improving, but we're still swinging through way too many pitches, and we're still, tracking at a below. There's certain levels. When you track below a certain level, it's time to make a switch. And to me, that level is probably, even with this year's stats being what they are, I would say that the level is probably 150. If you start going beneath 150, now you're making so many outs. We need to just kind of, it doesn't matter who comes up, just somebody else. Right?
Here's the thing, though. I like the concept of doing something like that, sending him down and getting his mechanics down and his all of that, and bringing up the other catcher. But he's not even on the 40-man roster, this guy. So they would have to open up a roster spot by either letting somebody go or making another trade. So I don't think that's in the plans, unless I want to keep Joey in the organization and not give up on him until you give him a solid couple of years and see what you got. And unless you've got something right now that is, you can trade him either one-to-one or a package and get somebody that's a true major league ready, backstop that is going to be available for a few years, then maybe. But he's got too much.
I don't think that's going to happen. Look at baseball. Show me the other team. Show me any team in baseball that trades for a guy who's going as bad as Joey Bart. I never see those trades, Dan. I never see anybody trade for anybody who's hitting 064 for the month.
But with that pedigree, though, and also, it's at the catcher position, like to have a catcher with the even just the possibility of being a bat in the lineup, like somebody's going to trade. Somebody would trade for that.
Well, somebody would steal him from you if you said, "Hey, you know what? We're done. We're done with this guy. Anybody who wants him, come get him." But I don't think the Giants are there.
No, I don't see that.
So even though everybody's impatient, and so the impatient fan says, just play him or trade him. But that's not really the way they're going to do it. They're going to back him off, slow him down, try to rebuild his confidence, get him going. Right. If he gets traded, don't you think he'll be like in the off season? I don't think he'll be in the season. I think he'll be in the off season.
I've seen the guy. I've seen him in the minors. In spring training, and I know spring training's different, but the potential is there. The guy can hit, and he just is over his head a little bit right now. So I wouldn't give up on. I'm looking at his minor league stats here in 2000. Let's see, 18, he hit 359 in 220 at bats. The next year, he finished in two leagues. That was two leagues. He finished with an average of 294. And then he went to the next level, and he was at 298. In the Arizona Fall League, he was 261. In two leagues in 2019, he was 278. The guy's, he's only had major league at bats, 65 this year. In 2020, he was overmatched. That was the year of the short season and COVID, and that was the year Buster didn't play. So he had 103 at bats, and he hit 223, or wait, my eyes. He hit 233 that year. So even in his first year, he still hit 233. So I think the guy can be a 230 to 240, maybe even a 250 hitter. And, I just don't think you find a ton of catchers hitting, 275 plus in Major League Baseball today.
I think the biggest issue that I have with Bart is the swing and miss, not making contact, especially in today's game. Like with the power arms, with the strikeouts, you got to be able to put the ball in play. And right now he's not doing it. I mean, obviously we hope he figures it out, but if the trend continues and if he just keeps whiffing at it, even if he is getting on base or not, you still want your catcher to, have a little bit of pop, hit some doubles, hit some home runs, but you can't do that if you're not even making contact.
Absolutely. And
we'll see. We'll see.
Problem.
Romo 2001 donates $5. He says, "With all this talk about catchers, is Bart the future? If not, do they trade or draft another catcher? Sounds like scouts were not high on Bart." Well, somebody was high on him. He went second pick in the draft. And I'm not saying that there's never been a minor league catcher. There's a guy in here, somebody in here was like, "Larry's wrong. Will Smith had a lower average in the minors than he had in the majors." I'm not saying that that's never happened, but look at Will Smith. Will Smith is a really good offensive player at this point. Joey Bart is swinging and missing and swinging and missing, and that low slider, he swings right over the top of that low slider, and he's doing it over and over and over again. So, what's the best solution? Do you back him off? Do you slow him down? Do you farm him out? Do you're not trading him because you're just not, why would you? There's no real need to trade him. There's no urgency. There's no advantage. You're going to trade him at a loss at this point. The problem is they don't have anybody else. That's the problem. And that's why they had to make that trade for the left-handed hitting catcher from Houston, because they don't have anybody. They don't have anybody who's ready to roll right now. So that's really the problem. Here it is. Anonymous Approach says, Will Smith, who's supposedly the best catcher in the National League right now, hit 243 in the minors. Larry is wrong. All right. We can all find the aberration. We can all find the one aberration. And yeah, but also Will Smith, there's also, Will Smith hit 382 in college with a 480 on base percentage. And he had many years in the minor leagues where he hit 321, 371. I'm looking at a couple of years right there. So, his overall minor league numbers are, 243, but he's not necessarily ripping it average wise in the major leagues either, but he's clearly the aberration. 243 minor league hitter, 261 so far in the major leagues.
Larry,
So
I don't mean to be a
got one catcher who's better in the minors than he was in the majors.
I don't mean to be a point-esser, but that guy also said, and so I looked it up, but Yadi Molina, career 277 in the minors, and Salvador Perez is career 289.
And what do they hit? What's their career in major leagues? What's Yadi's major league average?
Career is 279.
So similar
to.
But it's like, are we really trying to find the one aberration? The reality is that most guys who hit 350 in the minors wind up hitting 250 in the majors. So how many players are there that have a higher major league average than a minor league average?
Not too many.
It's
not too many.
It's called an aberration.
Yeah.
It's the aberration.
We're talking about
an aberration.
We're talking about Bart and his strikeout rate. Look what the Dodgers are dealing with Cody Bellinger, former MVP, has a horrible year last year, and he's not coming out of it this year so far. So far this year, he's had 124 at bats, and he's batting 202 with 44 Ks. Here's the former MVP just a couple of years ago, removed, 2019, he was the MVP, 47 home runs, hit 305, only struck out 108 times and 558 at bats. I guess what I'm saying is guys can get into a funk and it can be really difficult to get out of. But I think Bart, because he's hit in college, he's hit in the minor league level. Once he learns and makes the adjustments, I think he's going to be a solid. I don't think he's going to be an all-star at this point. I mean, he could be. I'm not projecting that, but I'm projecting a solid career. You don't have that pedigree of, and he was drafted by John Barr, the Giant scout, I believe, who is been their top scout. And, he really liked what he saw in Bart. And, I just think he's basically a rookie, Joey, right? He's still rookie status.
I mean, Danny's 25. He played a full college career. So he's not 20. If he was 20, I'm with you. If he's 22, I'm with you. But he's 25. He's 25. Yeah. He played a full career at Georgia Tech. He was. I mean, think about it. If you play college ball, I mean, that guy Bryson Stott, who I think the Phillies had up earlier this year, wasn't he in last year's draft? So, I mean, I don't know. Some guys take longer than others. Some guys never figure it out. Some guys figure it out after a lot of failure. I just have never really seen anybody figured out at the major league level when they're struggling. When they're struggling the way this guy is. I mean, if he's hitting 230, one thing, but he's not. He got off to a hot start and he's in a free fall. So all I'm saying is since we don't, obviously they're doing everything they can with him. They're working with him before games. They're trying to target, I'm sure through tons of film, what his weaknesses are. They don't want to farm him out because they don't have any better options. They really don't. So they don't want to farm him out. They want him to find himself at the major league level. And if they can help him find himself by playing him once a week for a couple weeks, then they'll do that. But it's just one of those things where, if you're hitting 200, but you're a great defensive player, okay. But the Mendoza line is if you're south of 200. Wow, that one's tough, and it is a tough call because you're not going to trade him, but you also, if a guy's hitting under 100, can you afford to give him 4 at bats? Where do you hit a guy who's hitting sub 100 for a month? It's really tough.
Listen to this player's first 3 years: 188 batting average. 205, 202.
Joey Gallo? I don't know. Who is that?
Matt Williams.
And what's his career average?
Average for Matt Williams is 268.
268. And he went that, he did that up and down deal 87, 88, 89. I mean, right? He wasn't truly, what was his first great, terrific year? I mean, 94 was the strike year. That's when he was really rolling.
Yeah,
93.
In 89, his third year, he had 292 at bats and he hit 202. And he struck out. His strikeouts were
202.
But in 1990, he had 617 at bats, and he rose his batting average all the way up to 277. So, and then he started to really take off. So I guess what I'm saying is, a guy like Bart, it's not like he was a 6th round draft pick and he was the second player chosen in the entire draft. Don't give up on him. Don't trade him unless you get some exceptional value. And I'm not saying play him every day. I agree with you that maybe they need to send him down and get some seasoning and get his swing down, but don't get rid of him at this point off the entire organization.
Well, who's saying that?
Well, no, I just some people are saying, hey, trade him or let's trade him for somebody else if we can, move them in a package. Unless you got a really solid, veteran that that's produced is coming back. I'm not trading him. I mean, this guy they got, Paperiski, I don't know what the point of it is. I personally think it's a move to make another move at some point, because he's not even on the 40-man roster right now. So he's not coming up to play on the Giants unless they got rid of somebody else off the roster and put him on.
I think it's pretty clear what the plan is. The plan is if Bart stays in the free fall, that they send him back to the minor leagues
and bring up a guy that's hit 212 in his minor league career. I mean, we're talking a guy who only hit 200 in the minors. What's
I know.
He gonna hit in the majors.
I know, but the thing is what that player brings. First of all, that player, that player's you're not even hoping for anything offensively. That player is only there to give you a little change of pace, and that's why he's left-handed. That's why he's a switch hitter, right?
Yeah.
And also, the one advantage for Papierski is that he has a very high. He's another guy with a really high on base percentage. For a guy who's got a really, really low batting average, he's got kind of an absurdly high on base percentage. So maybe they're thinking that. I don't think anybody with the Giants is like, hey man, let's get rid of Joey Bart. It's just a matter of when you like a player and you want to protect his kind of feeling about himself, how buried do you let him get? That's the question. I mean, he's getting buried every day. How much do you let him bury himself? How bad is his stat line got to look before they would say, you know what, maybe it would be better just to put him back in the minor leagues and take a little pressure off of him? And I got to think that that's been discussed. So, and then when you look at their AAA and you say, well, wait a second, if you send them to AAA, can you bring up Genovese? No, you really can't.
That's the guy I would say they would do Genovese first. They would put him on the roster. And what's
Genovese hitting?
That's what I'm looking up. I'm looking it up right now.
But Genovese is not an offensive, from what I'm hearing, he's not ready either. So, I don't know. I mean, it's a tough call. I don't think. I think if they bring up the guy they just traded for, it's not because they think he's better than Joey Bart. It's just because they're trying to, give Joey Bart a chance to catch his breath.
Right.
Catch your breath, kid. Do it in the minors. And maybe be up again later this year. We have seen guys who have failed in April or May, farmed out, forgotten about basically for the rest of the year, and then they battle through and earn a September call-up, and then go to winter ball, and sometimes they're a different hitter by March of next year, and maybe that's the plan. The guy that I think is interesting is Auerbach, because Auerbach is an athlete, and Auerbach looked in spring training like a guy who might be able to hit 250. I mean, and yet he didn't play. He had no experience at any of the higher levels. So it's like, okay, you even though he had a nice looking Cactus League, you can't promote him. But if Bart is in a free fall, maybe Auerbach's the guy that benefits. He's Johnny on the spot.
That can play other positions as well. And is he a left-handed bat or right? I can't remember.
He's a righty.
Righty. Okay.
He's a righty, but he hit 388 his final year at Alabama. He can play second. He can play center. He's a great athlete. He's got kind of a flat stroke, and he seems like he's to me, Auerbach looked pretty advanced this spring. Now, granted, it was spring training and this and that. It's like hard to evaluate spring training, especially a shortened spring training. But yeah, and then now guy says here, Real Deal Sports Talk, Auerbach's only hitting 203 in AA. But see, now that's the other thing too. It's like AA stats are
tough league to hit.
That's a difference. Now you're talking about a different league. Now you're talking about a league where offensive stats are really scarce, and there's a lot of cold weather in April. So the numbers that you see in the Eastern League and in AA, a lot of times, hitters, there are hitters that are better than their AA stats. I don't know if there are hitters that are better than their AAA stats.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking.
Anonymous is Larry, you're overreacting. Okay, now I'm getting the relax. Everybody's batting average is bad. Bart second on the team in home runs in only 65 at bats. Belt is tied with Bart, but has 30 more at bats. Yeah, no, I mean Bart's got power. He's got power. The ball that he hit on opening day was a 2-iron into the left field bleachers. Looked great, fantastic. Unfortunately, he seemed. What I'm looking at is not just the stats. What I'm looking at is the look on the kid's face as he's rolling back to the dugout. And I'm seeing a defeated player that looks kind of bewildered.
It looks that way, doesn't it? I mean, it sure looks like that.
He looks like he doesn't know. He doesn't have the answers.
But sometimes people's faces, they don't have. That's just their look. I mean, if you look at Camilo Doval, you look like, man, dude, do you care about anything? Just sitting out there, look like you're about ready to smoke a joint on the mound.
Ryan Russillo, who I listen to a lot of his podcasts, he coined the term "Shamit face" for Landry Shamit's face. It always looks like panicked and like he just has Shamit face.
Yeah.
Real Deal Sports Talk says for Genovez, he's hitting 313 in May with an 818 OPS.
He's coming
so
along.
Maybe there's some growth there. Who knows?
They like him. They really like Genovez. As from what I've heard, they like him.
They like Andrew Bailey too. Jim Molay says Andrew Bailey.
You mean Patrick Bailey?
Does he have any say about bringing up a new catcher? Well, they like Bailey.
Okay.
Bailey had some, he looked pretty decent at times in spring training, had a couple doubles where he looked pretty good, but another guy, very young player, you're asking him to do a lot, I don't know. It's funny. Monsieur says the whole discussion, the whole point is ridiculous. A catcher with 4 homers and 65 at bats, average OPS and above average for a catcher, above average defender who works, and people are talking about trading. No, nobody's talking about trading. We're just saying that he's in a free fall, and he's not the only one. James Foster says, "Hey, Matt Chapman's hitting 188." Matt Chapman's been bad for over a year. I mean, there's a number. Averages right now are down throughout the game. And it could be the baseball. It could be any number of things. It's probably a combination of things, to be totally honest. So you don't want to get too caught up in anybody's batting average, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at Joey Bart going, he looked like he had like a much more of a bounce in his step the first 2 weeks of the year. And now he looks like a guy who's kind of thinking bad thoughts and swinging over the top of that slider, which is, they're throwing the slider right down the middle, just low in the zone, and he's swinging over the top of it. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not really sure what's going to get him out of it, but I just haven't seen too many guys in my, decades of watching baseball where, you're struggling and you're in this like ugly free fall where you're not hitting 200, you're not hitting 100, you're hitting beneath 100. And then all of a sudden you get it going without a trip to the minors. Almost always those guys need to be backed off, sat in the minors, get their head right, then kind of wash away the stain of all those horrendous at-bats. And then you start building the guy's confidence back up, and slowly but surely he forgets about the major league failure and he focuses on the minor league success. And maybe instead of last year, he had 294 down there. Now he gets another look at the same level. Maybe instead of 294, maybe it's 324. And now it's late August, and he's hitting 324 in the minors, and you've got a September call-up coming. And now you promote the guy again in September. And maybe he has a different kind of lease on life at that point than if you just kept him up at the major league level and tried to nurse him through the season because you didn't have a lot of better options.
Well, we did see It did wonders. If you think of the G League as NBA's minor leagues, it sure did wonders for Jordan Poole.
Facts.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, if you work at it, the G League is a great invention in the NBA because, you play on a Monday night and then maybe you play in the G League on Friday night but you don't get, you're not down and they're running the same system that you're running. And then all of a sudden you're back on the following Wednesday and you play in an NBA game. And then if you play well, maybe you don't play in a G League game, but if you struggle or you don't play, then maybe you play another 2 or 3 games in the G League. I think the G League has been awesome.
Look at the Warriors. NBA. If you look at their rotation and you said 2 of their top 8 guys, I know GP2's out right now, but 2 of their top 8 guys with GP in there are G Leaguers. They got the
G League's valuable.
Very
valuable.
Very valuable.
I mean, not every team is taking advantage of it either. The Warriors have the exact same scheme. So their G League team that they're affiliated with runs their scheme. So everybody who's down there is running the Warriors scheme, and guys come up and they're ready to contribute. But not every team in the league has that setup, I guess. But I think the G League's great because it used to be you just, you guys remember those stories about Tracy McGrady when he was a rookie and he was depressed and he's sitting in his hotel room and he's, eating ice cream and playing video games and just didn't really feel comfortable. He's a kid. He's playing in a man's league, and it's like, he just didn't feel good. Well, now, you know what? Now they've got a whole support system and a G League, and and now it's like if you didn't get any run, maybe you're drafted to a team like the Warriors that has title aspirations, and every game means something, and so you're not getting any real run. Well, guess what? Now Kerr can say, "Hey, Bob Myers, I think we should put Kuminga in the G League for 10 days." And he can go down there and get some run, learn your sets, but maybe take some chances, get some shots up, try to get into a flow. And to me, it's like, it's so much better because then now, the tickets are expensive. And why wouldn't you want to have somebody who kind of knows your system, who's like in rhythm? And that's what you have now in the G League. You got a guy, you're paying courtside seats, let's say, to see the Warriors on a Saturday night. And now Kuminga's getting minutes because there's injuries. Well, if that was 20 years ago, you're getting an athletic, talented Kuminga who's going to run around like he doesn't have any idea what he's doing. Because guess what? He doesn't have any idea what he's doing. But since he just played for, 40 minutes a night in the G League for 5 games and running the same system, now he's actually kind of in a good rhythm and he's playing decently.
Yeah,
and
I think they learned from that.
I think the G League's been genius.
Yeah, I think they learned from that with Wiseman, the fact that they kind of just decided to, he didn't even get in. He wasn't even there for training camp. They decided to just roll him out as the starting center day one. And I just don't think that was the right approach with him. And they kind of learned that in hindsight. Also, hey, what do you say we take a quick break and hit some ads?
Let's do it. We have one donation we should get in here. Gammon Brown donates $2. He says, Chapman and Bart hail from Mount Olympus. They're both blue chip prospects. All right, Gammon. We appreciate the donation and the comment. Go ahead, fire away the ads here, right? And hold on,
up on J Hutch.
J Hutch, we'll catch up with you, J Hutch.
Sounds good. You guys have a good night. Great show, and everyone remember to like, subscribe. This guy Larry, he's doing his thing. It's gonna be the best post game show, all in the Bay Area. And remember, guys, relax.
Relax. Everybody just needs to relax.
Later, J Hutch.
Later, J Hutch. Appreciate it. Pride of Murfreesboro checking in. Okay. That people saying, why do we ignore the terrible average and whiff rate? He looks lost at the plate. Get real. All right. Let's
hey, real quick. Just on that note, before we jump on, I know we've been talking about Joey for quite a bit, and but he's hitting 185. But the league average, Ryan just looked it up.
Wait, Dan.
Yeah,
tease what the league average is after the break.
There we go. Yeah, we'll come back with the league average of the MLB league average for all players coming up after these commercial messages.
Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, make sure you use telmetrics.co, TELMETRIX.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Dan Coach Emilio and all the people at Secure Money for being proud sponsors of the Krueg Show. All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. I got that frozen most of the time. Did you guys get that frozen or no?
Wait, let's ask the chat. We need the chat. Hey, chat, did you guys see? Did that look good? Is that frozen? All good. Okay.
All good.
You look good to me.
It must have been because I clicked it, maybe.
I for whatever reason, it was all frozen on my end. I as long as it didn't freeze for everybody else, there you go. So we're just gonna thank our two sponsors for this week. Go ahead, Danny. What is the league average for average right now?
All right. Are we going to give a little bit of a prize or something? Somebody that guesses it coming in from the chat room. Am I giving up 2 of my tickets to this weekend's game against the Padres? No way. Not for this.
Bonjour, forgo. Can't speak French.
What's he? Anybody?
He just said just average is a stat for baseball illiterate. Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah, the major league.
Go ahead. Everybody wants to talk about it's the average is the bad stat. Give me the good stat. Yeah. Give me the good stat. Don't give me RC plus whatever. Don't give me some advanced crazy stat. Give me the stat that's better than batting average. Which stat do you love? You like on base percentage? You like OPS, mix of on base and slugging? Do you like total bases? I'll tell you, to me, one of my favorite stats is I think batting average is a great stat. I think batting average against is a great stat to look at for pitchers, and I think batting average is a good stat to look at for hitters. And I do think that on base percentage is a good stat to look at as well. OPS is a good stat as well. But I mean, some of these advanced stats that, whatever you love, whatever to each their own. But I don't think batting average is a crazy bad stat. If you're going to tell me that there's lots of people in the chat that will say, oh, batting average sucks. All right, go ahead. What do you got? What do you got? Give me a stat that is actually truly revealing, that you really feel like, because the old saying, stats lie and liars use statistics. So I can get a stat that tells me anything. Yeah.
I look at the eye test, man.
The aberration, it's like there are some stats that are just, they're aberrations. But
they need a body language stat.
Well, to me, I love seeing what the league hits off a pitcher. I've never seen a totally dominant pitcher who had the league hit 280 off of. It doesn't happen. If you're really a dominant pitcher, the league's hitting has a low
200.
average against you.
Yeah, it's a lot of guys, especially the relievers. Some of these guys below the Mendoza line.
Yeah, I mean, take Camilo Doval. I think it's lefties hit like 285 against him, but righties hit like 094 or something like that. To me, those numbers tell you a little bit of the story.
Yeah, and
so I like batting average against
ERA is important
batting
too.
average against for pitchers. I think that's a great stat.
ERA is a good stat. Look at that guy from the Cardinals, the reliever. What is it? He had a 0 ERA this year. The guy that throws gas, 101, 102, starts with an H.
Jordan Hicks. I mean,
no, not Hicks, the reliever.
Helsley,
yeah. Now he didn't have that in prior years. He had a pretty high ERA in the 4s. They were saying Sunday night, but his.
Wait, Dan, say it quickly because the chat's about to expose it.
234.
Yeah, there we go.
234 is the league average.
Yep.
Yes,
Still,
batting
it's
average.
up a little bit from when we last checked it, but that will still be the worst in Major League Baseball history. Also, I mean, it's pretty correlated, but hits per game is also the lowest of all.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Isn't it down to like 8 or something per game or something? 9?
What was the Major League average, 10 years ago? What was the Major League average 20 years ago? What was the Major League average 30 years ago?
Okay, can you give me 1 second?
I'd love to know, because I mean, the one thing about it, I mean, I think it's definitely the ball. We can talk about all the different angles on this thing, but Major League Baseball owns the company that creates the baseball.
Oh, absolutely.
So they control the baseball, they control the game, and to me, if it's more than one ball, that's where I really have an issue. If they're using a different ball on national TV, as some people were suggesting the other day, than they do in non-national TV games, I think that's cheese ball. I mean, come on. I mean, stay with the same baseball. But there's also, I watched that Cardinals-Giants game the other day. The Cardinals had 4 pitchers that all came in that were all through different stuff, and all 4 were just incredibly nasty.
Well, yeah, that's why your batting averages are low, because
that's a big part of it for sure. I mean, you're
in the days of Marichal, Jenkins, and Gibson, even though those guys were unbelievable pitchers, they pitched the complete games, most of them. So you got to bat against the guy 4 times. You never saw, by the 3rd time, you might have had a better shot at getting a hit. But today, you don't
take a third. You don't take an at bat for the 4th time off any pitcher.
No, not even
you're lucky if you
hardly.
take You'd be lucky if you take multiple at bats off of one pitcher in a game.
Exactly.
Right now, I would say it's probably what do you may get a second look at the starter. And that's about it. Otherwise, here comes another nasty guy throwing 100. With ungodly breaking stuff, and it's a specialization game now where and there's so many relievers. I mean the Giants in this series in Denver have had 13 relievers. So
I mean, look at all of the other. So if we're looking like 234, the worst ever, then it's a bunch of older eras. But look at the strikeouts right now: 234, 8.37. 5.89, 3.77, 3.65, 5.99,
wow.
And those are the lowest batting average years.
Yeah, because there's no shame in striking out anymore. Because now if you go 0 for 4 and you go to home plate and you pop one out and you wind up on a 1 for 5 day with a home run, you're like, that's a good day. That's a good day.
I'm looking at everything's below 6 on the strikeouts. And then I see 8.37 this year. Then I see 8.68 and 8.68, but that's 2020 and 2021.
Yeah.
So the last 3 years, the average K rate is over 8.
Yeah, let me sort by K rate.
Oh my!
I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, you got
this is almost like in year by year order. That's crazy.
And look at the stuff. Look at the stuff.
Yeah,
every team used to have one guy in the pen who threw 95 plus, maybe 2. Now every guy in your pen throws 98, and you got 2 guys who can touch 100. and it's common. It's just really common. It's amazing how many guys throw triple digits and can throw breaking stuff for strikes.
This is why you're going to see the shift go away, because you factor in these K rates plus the shift. That's why batting averages are so low. I mean, next year you're going to see probably only 2 men on each side of second base, and they got to play on the dirt, somewhere on the dirt, because, so you'll probably have a guy just a step off of the bag. And also another change that may be coming that's kind of interesting is in the second half this year of minor league baseball, they're moving in the bases, second base, they're moving in 13 inches closer to the mound.
Well, they're also making the bases bigger. You saw that,
bigger,
right?
Yeah. So we might see the steal come back, because it's going to be 13 inches closer to first base, because it's actually not a true shape of a diamond anymore.
The thing about the steal, though, is that, if you go back and trace it, when Marquise Grissom stole, I think it was 70 something, it was either high 70s or low 80s. And went to arbitration and got denied. And that was it. That was the turning point for stolen bases. You have not seen guys, guys don't even attempt 75 steals sometimes, let alone, Ricky Henderson stole 130. He stole 130 one year. He stole 118 one year. Nobody's running that often. And now it's kind of believed that you don't want to run into any kind of outs on the base pass, that's a surefire loser as well.
Let me go back to the hits, Ryan. I saw that for this year under 7. It was under 7 or 8. It was like 7 point for this year.
Yeah.
7.73 hits a game. That's both teams or one team?
Hits/hits allowed. So I guess that's both, right?
Is that a combined number of hits in a game? It must be.
It must.
Wait a minute.
That
can't be. Is that per team?
Well, that reflects what's going on in the game. There's not a lot of action right now.
Because
this is the problem in the game. I mean, you have 3 outcomes. You got the home run, the strikeout, the walk, and you don't see guys on base. You don't see guys stealing bases. It's not a dynamic show. That is the problem with MLB in a nutshell. You look at every sport in America, and it's probably as much or more action than it was. The same sport was in the 70s or 80s. That's not the case in baseball. The 70s and 80s in baseball, you saw way more action and way more. The game was more dynamic to watch.
Yeah,
because you had more athletes, and you had more athletes doing more things that you could see.
That's got to be per
you
team.
Have the 3 outcomes.
It's per team. Also, following up on, because this is all kind of interrelated. I mean, the Mavs are a super, super analytics driven team, similar to the Rockets. And it goes back to, it's sort of the same thing with the stolen bases. It's like, they're like, we want the ball in Luka Doncic's hands, because he is going to, has the highest, chance of something good happening. And, he's not going to be we're not going to be turning the ball over by flinging it around to everybody and running this like warrior, Princeton motion offense. We're just going to keep it in his hand. We're going to cut back on turnovers, whatever. But it's like, same thing with the stolen bases, man. I do miss watching people steal bases. It was awesome last year watching Marte. That was electric television.
Well, Larry, you're a real big football guy, and with baseball and basketball, it's becoming analytics driven. The 3-point shot is analytics driven because 4 out of 10 is as good as 6 out of 12 2-pointers. So why not shoot more 3-pointers? Because if you shoot close to 40%, you're shooting basically 50% in the old game, where there was no 3-point line.
That's 33%. You're shooting 50%.
Or is it 33? Yeah, right. So 33% is as good as the old game. In football,
Do you see any analytics driving the game? I can't think of anything.
Passing on first downs.
No, I think that what you're going to see is when the Eagles won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, they did two things that I think people are starting to copy around football, and that is they went for it a disproportionate number of times on fourth down.
True.
And so I think you're going to see that. And then Baltimore took that and ran with it this last couple of years, and they've gone for it at a disproportionate number of times. And they're going for it more than teams used to go for it on fourth down. And I think that's going to be, in vogue going forward. I think to punt on 4th and 1, to punt on 4th and 2 is probably a bad decision. So I think most football teams are going to start to go for it. And then
going back with that, Larry, do you think then that the Niners in that NFC Championship against the Rams last year when they had 4th and 1, I think the ball was in their own territory, but they punted and gave it up to the Rams, and the Rams went down and
they should have gone for it.
Should have gone for it. I was watching just the other night on NFL Network. They were replaying the Chiefs Baltimore game last year. Harbaugh, it was 4th and 1, a minute 35 to go, and they were on their own 30 or 35 yard line. And instead of turn the ball, punt it and give it to Mahomes and let him go down and kick the winning field goal, he went for it because the Chiefs used all their timeouts. I mean,
you can do it too much. I mean, the guy with the Chargers is a perfect example. Brandon Staley.
Yeah.
Brandon Staley went for it repeatedly and cost himself definitely at least one game last year. I would say maybe two.
Yeah,
where he just kept going for it.
Shanahan seemed to be more like the old John Madden, always
he went for it, like with Trey Lance out there, like in those games, he went for it quite a bit. I mean, I feel like it's matchup dependent. Like if you're playing Mahomes and you don't trust your defense to get a stop, if you think that no matter what, if they get the ball, they're scoring anyways, then why not go for it?
To me, it's a decision that's made you should almost make on Thursday or Friday. You should decide, are we a better offensive team than our opponent, or is our opponent a better offensive team than us? And make that distinction. And if you're the better offensive team, you should not go for it. But if you're the worse offensive team, then I think you should probably bank on trying to go for it on fourth down at least once. And I think that's what you're going to see. I think you're going to see teams go for it more on fourth down. The other thing that you're going to see is what the Eagles also did when they won the Super Bowl is they didn't really have any 2-down run stuffers on their D line. Everything was about shoot up the field, go get the quarterback. And I think we're now in that era where you're going to see fewer sack. I mean, if you watch the sack totals have migrated from almost exclusive territory of a defensive tackle or a defensive end to now the defensive tackles hardly ever commit or hardly ever sack the quarterback. And you see a ton of sacks from inside linebackers and safeties and cornerbacks on delayed blitzes because the quarterbacks are getting smaller and faster and more athletic. And so you need smaller, faster, more athletic rushers to corral them and to sack them. So Javon Kinlaw, who's a really good player, and he's 320 pounds. He's played 18 plus games in the NFL. He's got 1.5 sacks. And so you're not going to really lean on that guy. First of all, I don't think the emphasis on defensive tackles in the draft, I think they'll be de-emphasized as time goes on because they're 2-down players. They play on first and second down, and then in the sub package, they're coming off the field. So like your nickel corner is way, way more valuable than your starting defensive tackle. And that's a new development. So I just think you're going to see teams go to, they always go to more speed. And then can you counter it? So like right now, I mean, the 49ers have a guy in camp this year from San Diego State named Saguna Luby, who played at San Diego State, who's 6'3", 220. He's a linebacker. He ran 4.45 Well, I mean, that's burning fast for a linebacker, but that's where we're at. Now NFL linebackers run 4.5, and if you run 4.6, you're slow, and if you run 4.7, you're picked on, and if you run anything slower than 4.7, as soon as you come on the field, they're like, we're going at that guy. We're going at the 4.8 linebacker. So now, it's a speed game. So you got to be able to run.
That's a real interesting take, because you are starting to see, instead of those 6'2", 260 linebackers, now you're seeing guys in the 220s and 230s. Marcel Harris comes up and plays in the box sometimes now as a,
it's like the CFL. I was in the CFL. We had a terrible defense one year. Well, we had an NFL defense. So then what did we do? We basically cut all of our defensive tackles and found defensive ends who could play tackle, found outside backers who could play defensive end, found safeties who could play linebacker, and then just added a bunch of corners. And then suddenly we had a much faster coverage-based defense, and it was improved.
This kid that the Niners drafted, is it Davis, that was a linebacker at UCF and is now a defensive tackle?
Jordan.
Yeah, no, he's eaten his way from, middle backer or outside backer to defensive end to now defensive tackle.
But has the speed and the agility.
He's got speed. Yeah, he's got quickness and speed. Body just keeps getting bigger, bigger, bigger. But I mean, ultimately, it's a speed game in the NFL. So, look how many receivers ran sub 4.5 and forget that, sub 4.3. I mean, there was a bunch of guys who ran sub 4.3.
Receivers are like, smaller guys. Now that the Debo thing happened, it's kind of like basketball where it's positionless. Like you want to have a wide receiver that can play running back, a running back that can play wide receiver, a tight end that is essentially just a slot receiver.
Rebel 444 says Patrick Willis was more fun, but the Sean Taylors and the Dawkins and Ronnie Lotts would be linebackers now. I mean, think about safety in the 80s: David Fulcher and Jeff Fuller and Ronnie and Steve Atwater and Chuck Cecil and some of these Joey Browner and some of these guys were 220 pounds and they hit like linebackers. Well, those guys, they couldn't even play. I mean, Ronnie was the exception. You can't call Ronnie came in as a corner. Yeah, so Ronnie had coverage ability, and that's why Ronnie's a Hall of Famer. And I really believe Ronnie would have adapted.
Yeah, he was a safety at SC all those years, and then he comes in rookie year, and they moved him and Eric Wright at the corners, both rookies, right?
But now if you're, then the Niners drafted Merton Hanks in the 5th round out of Iowa as a corner and then moved him to free safety, and he became a great free safety, an all-pro free safety. So, that's kind of where it's at. I mean, the safety position in the NFL is totally different. Now, heck, the 49ers just signed Quantrez Knight out of UCLA and Taylor Hawkins from San Diego State, and they're trying them out in rookie minicamp as safeties. Well, those guys both played the corner in college, but in the pros, they're going to try their spot at safety because they don't move well enough to play on the corner in the NFL. So
interesting.
You need those incredible man-to-man players who can cover and mirror receivers up and down the field. And so teams, the old saying, what's the key to pass coverage? Pass coverage. In other words, there is no key to pass coverage. You just have to be able to have guys who can do it. And I think that's where the NFL's at. So you're going to see, corners transitioning to safeties transitioning to linebackers who are now used as rushers. I mean, look at Seattle last year. They swept the Niners, and they had drafted a number of different guys, Darrell Taylor and Collier, a number of different guys who were defensive ends. But how did they rush Jimmy G? It was Bobby Wagner on delayed blitzes through the A-gap. So they would drop him into coverage, and then he would read the center. Center would turn his head. He would shoot a gap. And that's how that's how they put pressure on the quarterback. So
now he's with the Rams, right?
Yeah. Well, now he's with the Rams. But now what you're seeing is the sack leaders, it's a diversified list of corners, safeties, linebackers, and defensive ends. And you're seeing fewer sacks from these big 320-pound defensive tackles. They can't even, a big defensive tackle like Javon Kinlaw, I bet you could play him every snap of every game, and he may not be able to ever get to Kyler Murray.
Yeah, well, Murray, yeah. But, it's interesting because the game, as you mentioned, is becoming a speed game. If you look at the old college game in the 80s, who was the top team? Nebraska. They had those big guys that on the line and the fullback and the Rathman and they were winning national championships, and they had a couple of guys, their running backs, whether it be Rozier or Roger Craig or whoever, but they were always known for, just plow through you. Now the college game is really caught up to the pro game. In fact, maybe if the pro games, you remember the old, the spread offense, Mouse Davis with Cal, and they're running this crazy, these different offenses with all these, wideouts, and now the pros you're starting to see more of these 4 receiver splits. And Kansas City sometimes will even go with 5.
Oh, it's totally true. It really comes down to, offensive football is about creating space. Defensive football is about closing that space down. So the space is at a premium. There's never been more need for space. And so if you have speed, if you got a guy like, Danny Gray, he can create a ton of space for your offense. And then defense, it's about get as many athletes as you possibly can on the field because you want to close that space down. And why are you seeing, so many teams in the NFL go with 3 and 4 and 5 wides? It's because it's hard to cover that many guys. And if you got a quarterback like a Brady who's pretty accurate, and it's also, there's a lot of money invested in quarterbacks. And if you go 3, 4, 5 wides and everybody runs a short route and the quarterback takes a 3-step drop and the ball comes out, guess what? You're almost effectively neutralizing teams like the 49ers who have Nick Bosa and have Drake Jackson and have these scary rushers coming off the edge, because now you can't ever sack the quarterback. Now it's like, hey, you know what? We got to think of something else because we're never going to get there because it's 3 steps and the ball's coming out. So, and then also now because of the proliferation of spread offensive attacks in college, this is the 3rd year in a row we've seen a draft that's ridiculously deep in wide receivers. This is 3 years in a row. There were receivers that didn't get drafted this year that in past drafts would have been drafted, but they weren't because there's just so many receivers in the draft every year. It also makes it difficult for the Deebo Samuels to get paid, because why are you going to pay a receiver when there's like 20 different options to choose from in the draft every year, and even after the draft? So it's if you're a receiver, suddenly they flooded the market with too many guys who play your position.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day, Cliff Branch was really one of the only deep threats, and that's why the Raiders were, so good for so long. They had the long bomb, and now every team has the speedsters. I'm wondering, you mentioned these linebackers, the change there. You see the 49ers with Algier and Warner and, guys that can cover, they're fast. With all these receivers and the speed coming and getting, like you just mentioned, getting rid of the ball after 3 steps and do you think we might see a game where, you start seeing corners that become, instead of a slot corner, you almost have some of your linebackers where you could have 7 or 8 DBs covering guys? And I mean, I know that leaves you susceptible to the run, but
there's 5 eligibles, right? So you got 5 eligibles. So
right.
You could cover every eligible receiver with a corner, and it's called the nickel.
Right.
And then sometimes they'll go 6 DBs, and that's the dime.
Right.
And you see a ton of it. You see a ton of nickel and a ton of dime. Heck, you could argue that the base defense is really the nickel. I mean, most teams will use their nickel corner more than their third linebacker.
Yeah, there was the game last year, the great game in the AFC, Buffalo and Kansas City, when Kansas City had 13 seconds left, I believe, they were down by 3, and they had the ball at the 25, and
right.
they in like 10 seconds they got it in field goal range. I couldn't understand that defense. If I was the defensive coordinator, I think I would have stuck 2 guys on every eligible receiver and just held them and taken a 5-yard penalty. We would have knocked off 3 seconds off of every play, and they would have maybe gained 10 to 15 yards. But instead, they threw 2 big passes and got into field goal range because they let those guys off the line. Why would you
what you're suggesting is basically try to circumvent the rules.
I would have grabbed and held those guys at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, and Tolbert brought this up when we were doing the show as well, and it's like, why don't they do this? Well, it would be you're basically trying to circumvent the rules.
Well, Harbaugh did that there, didn't he? Harbaugh's done that a few times.
The better question is why allow Travis Kelce, for example, to get a free release? He's a tight end. Yeah, he's not running 4-2. I understand why Tyreek Hill gets a free release because you don't want Tyreek Hill to run by you, and once he runs by you, he's gone. But that whole play, if all they did was put a line instead of playing off coverage and allowing a free release to Kelce, if they just bumped him. They just bumped him and forced him to fight his way open. By the time they completed the pass to him down the field, there wouldn't have been enough time for the next play. But instead, they didn't bump him. He got a free release, and they treated it like a hot route. And Mahomes found him immediately, and all of a sudden there was still enough time on the clock. So that was a huge gaffe by Buffalo. They should have not given Kelce the free release.
I'm playing within the rules, and I'm holding him. I'm going to hold him blatantly, and you're going to give me a 5-yard penalty for defensive holding, and there's 13 seconds left. I don't care what the rules say or circumventing. I'm going to hold those guys, even if I have to hold their shirts, their jerseys, and don't let them break away. Throw the flag. You're running the clock out, and then – after you get it down to like 7 seconds, you can play regular defense.
Yeah. If they didn't kick the ball in the end zone, like that's game over. Like make them return it.
Yeah,
but that would be a true, that is circumventing the rule. I mean that would be, and you could do it, and then they would change the rule.
Yep,
but they would change the rule.
They did change the rule. I think I remember hearing this. I think it's like you can do it one time. I don't know. You couldn't do it twice or something like that. There was some sort of penalty for it.
Interesting.
I mean, we saw Seattle in the Legion of Boom, basically defensive hold on every play. I mean, the Niners Seahawks deal where Crabtree, it was in the back of the end zone. I mean, they held Crabtree repeatedly. And they just were like, well, you can't call it every time. And it's just circumventing the rules.
Yeah.
And it's been brought up a few times, and yeah, when your game plan is circumvent the rules, then maybe the rules committee needs to look harder at devising rules that either can't be circumvented, because why not just tug on the guy, yank him to the ground, take the penalty flag. Now the game can't end on a defensive penalty, but you can burn off a lot of time,
right,
and help give yourself a much better chance to win. That will be discussed by the rules committee going forward for sure.
I think their defensive interference or pass interference is ridiculous. 15 yards, you got a ball thrown downfield 45, 50 yards, and the guy knocks the receiver over, and all you get is 15. Or if a guy gets behind you and you grab him because he's going to.
That's a real basic one. It's like, hey, you know what? Inside of 2 minutes, it's got to be a spot foul. I mean, you got, or maybe 2 minutes is not enough. Maybe it's inside of 5 minutes.
Right.
But there's got to be a spot foul. Jaguayo says, Krueg, have a good evening. Let's go Giants and Dubs. Throws a little $2 donation there. And then Joe Ibrahim donates $4.99. Super sticker. I'm not sure what the super sticker.
What was the one earlier that said you got a bot or something? What'd that mean?
Oh, it's well, we get quite a bit of adult companies.
Yeah, so people trying to anytime there's a crowd in the chat, sometimes you'll get people sticking things into your chat trying to attract your crowd.
Oh boy.
So there you go. There's a little battle royale going on behind the scenes. All right, that does it for us. It's 12:17, so we'll call it a night. If you're just tuning in, we came on after the Giants game. Giants destroyed Colorado tonight. All Giants 10. Well, they were
10-2.
in the process of destroying Colorado. Colorado came back and made it a ball game. 10-7 was the final, but the game really wasn't this close as the score indicates. And then Miami had an incredible second half. And they were down at the half, but they came back and they beat the Celtics. So the Heat go up 1-0, 118, 107, 11-point win for Miami in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Tomorrow we have 10:30 in the morning. We're going to talk to our good friend Mike Babcock, Matt Babcock, I should say, from the senior NBA draft analyst for the Basketball News, and we'll talk a little bit about the NBA draft with him. Normally on Wednesdays we sit down with Vish, but tomorrow Vish has got something going on, so we will not be sitting down with Vish tomorrow at noon. So we got our 10:30 live stream tomorrow morning, talking NBA and the Warriors. Look ahead to the Warriors and the Mavericks, and a look ahead to the draft with Babcock. And then at 3 o'clock, you can catch me on Grant Cohn's channel tomorrow. We'll talk Niners, I'm sure, from 3 till about 4:30. And then Giants play a day game tomorrow, right? Day game tomorrow for the Giants. We will not be on after the day game tomorrow. But then they have the off day on Thursday. Thursday, we've got a bunch going on. Rob Rang's going to stop by from NFL Draft Scout. Kyle Posey will stop by as well. We'll talk a little bit we'll get a little draft recap from Rob Rang. I haven't talked to him in a while. We'll talk a little Niners with Kyle Posey. And then back on Friday, Giants Padres, game 1 of that series. And we'll come at you, do a little post game after that one. All right, guys, you got a final thought on the night? It was a great win for the Giants. The offense was there. Pretty lively chat on Joey Bart and some good basketball discussion. Do you guys have a final thought before we call it a night?
Well, I will say this. The Giants are doing what we expected they would do once they got healthy. I think they're on a good run. I like the position where they're at. And tomorrow we go for 6 in a row against Colorado. And our second
13
sweep.
in a row. 13
Yeah,
in
well,
a row.
yeah, I'm talking this year. Yeah, 13 dating back to last year. Yeah, but if they can get a sweep tomorrow, they got Logan Webb on the mound. We talked about Coors Field and what a difficult time it is watching them play there. Tonight I was having a hard time when the Rockies got that 5 runs, and one of the hits came with just a normal routine pop-up, but Darren Ruff's playing way out in left field, and it falls in. He's running full speed, couldn't get to it. And then it almost at the end of the game, the last out of the game, Slater got a great jump to make that. Otherwise, it would have been the tying run on base, and it would have been a 2-run game. So Coors Field, no lead is safe. So tomorrow, I'm hoping they'll put up double digits again. And Freeland's going to be a little tougher, but they've hit him pretty good in the past some games. So look for a right-handed lineup tomorrow mostly. Probably Crawford, my guess, and Yaz. There'll be the 2 lefties in the lineup, and I expect the rest to be all right-handers. And look for Joey Bart to knock one out of the park tomorrow. As we've been talking about Joey, I'm going to predict he's going yard tomorrow.
That's it. I love it.
Clarence Beeks says, never let Joey Bart divide us again. Ryan, do you have a thought?
I was totally going to steal that Clarence Beeks line, but no, I mean, hey, I'm rooting for Joey. Let's definitely have a massive overreaction to whatever he does, and yeah, go Dubs, go Giants. I think it'll be a good Wednesday.
Hey,
That's right. We'll be on, and we should remind people we will be on after the Warrior game tomorrow night. So not only will we do, not only will we have Babcock in the morning talking NBA draft and Warriors look ahead, and not only will I be on Grant's channel at 3, but the Warrior game tomorrow night tips at what time? 6, 7?
6.
So we'll probably be with you, I guess, right around 9 o'clock. And Cyrus should be by, and maybe Kylan as well, and we'll talk Warriors. Hopefully, the Warriors get off to a nice start. I'd love to see Golden State just absolutely just throttle Dallas. Just send them into that game 1 that everybody says, "Wow, what the heck were we thinking picking the Mavericks?" So that's my thought. For Dan and Ryan, I'm Larry. Have a great night, everybody. We'll catch you tomorrow.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground where we at.